Chapter 762. Bang! A muffled explosion resounded in everyone's ears. Everyone's pupils violently shrank. A green sword light had pierced through the death-evil beast's head, destroying one of its giant eyes. Seeing this scene, everyone in Mount Kunliu was very excited. Senior Brother Chu Hen, well done. Awesome. However, before they could be happy, an incomparably furious and monstrous aura burst out from the body of the evil beast of death. Howl! The howl of the furious evil beast of death changed. Everyone could feel its endless anger and soaring hatred. Boom! In an instant, the surging black gas was comparable to an erupting volcano and a tsunami. The world shook, the sky darkened, and the cold power swept in all directions with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. The 7 silver chains wrapped around the body of the evil beast of death were all shattered. Chu Hen's face changed slightly. He pulled out the blue Ran sword and quickly retreated. Rumble! The powerful black airwave was like a raging tsunami, wantonly crashing against all the people and buildings around it, including Chu Hen. The surrounding experts of Mount Kunliu and the blood refining hall were all shaken and flew backward. Many people with relatively weak cultivation were seriously injured and vomited blood on the spot. Anger. Absolute anger. The evil beast of death kept howling. Although half of the Ant Queen's head was blown off by Chu Hen, the part of the Scorpion King was still intact. The most disgusting thing was that the part of the Ant Queen was not dead yet. The half of the head was still twisting back and forth flexibly, looking extremely ferocious and terrifying. Howl! The angry evil beast of death glared at Chu Hen in front of it with scarlet eyes. Whoosh! It directly flew out and attacked Chu Hen with its huge scorpion pincer. The surging black gas was like a torrent that broke through the dam, unstoppable. Bang! When the two collided, Chu Hen was once again shaken and repelled. The blood in his body surged, and his throat felt slightly salty. This beast is actually so powerful? Chu Hen was secretly shocked. As expected of a new species formed from the fusion of the bloodlines of 2 top beast emperors. It was not something he could resist at all. Senior Brother Chu Hen, let's help you. When a few young disciples of Mount Kunliu saw this, they immediately turned back from the retreating troops, intending to step forward and assist. But in the next second, he was sent flying by the demonic beast of death's poisonous stinger. He crashed heavily onto the ground and vomited blood. Hey! Holai sneered and said, if you think that this evil beast of death is so easy to deal with, then you're wrong. I'm sorry to tell you that it is completely enraged. It will hunt you down to the end, and it won't rest until it's dead. Ha ha. An evil species that was born to kill. Chi Han Yu, and when Liang's expressions grew increasingly grim. The combat power of the demonic beast of death was too strong. With the strength of Chu Hen and the others, they could not contend against it at all. Was Mount Kunliu really going to perish here today? However, at this moment, something unexpected happened again. Chu Hen actually flew in the opposite direction of Mount Kunliu's retreat. Chu Hen, Hua Shui exclaimed in confusion. I'll lure it away. You guys retreat. I'll help you, Mu Feng said. No need. You help them cover their retreat. Swoosh. Then, Chu Hen flew across the sky and purposely passed in front of the demonic beast of death. The latter could be said to be extremely furious. Like a ferocious beast that had lost its mind, it turned around and chased after Chu Hen. Humph, he's really a hero who sacrificed himself for justice. Unfortunately, most of those who wanted to be heroes died, especially miserably. Liao Qixu smiled coldly and then said with disdain, don't worry about him. The rest of you, go after the defeated troops of Mount Kunliu. In Liao Qixu's opinion, a mere Chu Hen could only die in front of the demonic beast of death. The disparity in strength was so great that there was no need to send reinforcements. In less than 10 minutes, the demonic beast of death would return with Chu Hen's broken limbs. At that time, the remaining troops of Mount Kunliu would be annihilated here. Knowing that Chu Hen was far from being a match for the demonic beast of death, the people of Mount Kunliu took this opportunity to retreat as soon as possible. Haozi, Danjun, and the others were hesitant about whether they should go and help Chu Hen. After a brief moment of hesitation, it was better not to cause trouble for Chu Hen. After all, it was much easier for him to escape alone than with two people. Retreat. I hope you can come back alive. Lung Lingyan watched the man and the beast disappear into the sky. Her eyes were filled with some complicated emotions. Nangong Ju's eyes narrowed slightly. Then, he moved and retreated while fighting. Roar. The demonic beast of death was so strong that Chu Hen did not dare to stop for even a moment. The cold and gloomy aura was like the north wind blowing on his back. Chu Hen raised his speed to the fastest. His slightly serious face did not have the slightest hint of panic. Boom! Bang! The demonic beast of death was extremely violent in the process of chasing. Mountains and peaks were flattened by it. Mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. Rocks flew everywhere. Shock waves surged down one after another. Chu Hen was secretly startled. This beast was really not just a normal kind of ferocious. At this moment, he could not help but admire the ability of the blood refining hall to create such a powerful and abnormal species. The strength of the demonic beast of death was at least at the level of a level 7 or 8 beast emperor. Once it reached adulthood, it was very likely to become a heavenly beast. Heavenly beast. To Chu Hen, who was currently only at the second level of the Earth Profound Realm, it could truly be said to be a colossus. The demonic beast of death was chasing more and more fiercely. The distance between them was shrinking rapidly. The demonic beast of death was in a rage. It would not stop until it killed Chu Hen. Chu Hen, on the other hand, calmly and unhurriedly moved forward. Moreover, he constantly changed the direction he was heading towards. Towering mountains, lush forests, and very quickly, a vast deep pool appeared in Chu Hen's line of sight. There was a slope in the middle of the pool. As far as the eye could see, below the precipitous precipice, there was clear water and blue waves. It was a beautiful and unique scene. This is it. Chu Hen curled his lips slightly. He looked back at the demonic beast of death, which was less than 200 meters away from him. I'm going to give it to you as a friend. How? The demonic beast of death was more furious. It waved its sharp claws and pounced on him. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He directly rushed to the deep pool. At the same time, the blue sky sword in his hand burst out a strong sword light. He waved his sword. A sword light with a width of 300 meters flew out. It directly hit the deep pool and caused endless waves. In the next second, a giant beast seemed to be awakened at the bottom of the deep pool. Chapter 763. Rumble. The violent turbulence instantly destroyed the tranquility of the deep pool. Along with the raging waves that soared into the sky, more than a dozen incomparably huge and sturdy tentacles directly flew out from the bottom of the pool. Like a mad dragon emerging from a sea, they rolled up an irresistible momentum and attacked Chu Hen. At the same time, the ferocious and earth-shaking death evil beast behind him had already caught up. Boundless ferocious energy that was comparable to the attack of a mountain came crashing down. Its scorpion pincers danced, and its giant claws swung wildly, displaying a life-threatening momentum. In front of him was the giant pool beast, and behind him was the death evil beast. In an instant, Chu Hen was directly trapped in a siege from both the front and the back. They were all here to take his life. The pressure formed by the might of these two forces caused the space where Chu Hen was to fall into a distortion. Even the defensive power of the true Yuan outside his body was crushed and shattered. However, at this critical moment, Chu Hen suddenly flipped his left hand, and a warm and lustrous jade pendant appeared in his palm. His true Yuan was rapidly injected into the jade pendant, and soon after, the jade pendant immediately blossomed with a gentle light pattern. Buzz! With a trembling sound of airwaves, a powerful radiance completely wrapped Chu Hen within it. In the next second, the radiance rapidly converged, and together with Chu Hen, disappeared from where he was. Bang! Immediately after, the huge tentacles of the giant pool beast collided with the giant claws of the death evil beast. Monstrous splashes exploded one after another, shaking the heavens and the earth. Wujia! The disappearance of Chu Hen directly caused the death evil beast's anger to soar. In its rage, the other party waved its scorpion pincers without any regard for the consequences, and subsequently cut off the two tentacles of the giant pool beast. Once this happened, it immediately aroused the wrath of the mysterious underwater giant beast. The surging ferocious power was comparable to an erupting volcano, and the huge tentacles quickly began to entangle the death evil beast. Swoosh! At this moment, on a mountain ridge about 500 miles away, a bunch of illusory afterimages appeared in the void, and then steadily flashed and landed on the peak of a mountain, transforming into a figure. Oh, feeling the peace around him, Chu Hen breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally shaken off that monster. I've used up another life-saving opportunity. Chu Hen lowered his head to look at the exquisite jade pendant in his hand. The soft light slowly faded away, and with a slight cracking sound, a second crack appeared on it. He could only use it 3 times. A few months ago, when he encountered Toba Shah and was being chased by that mysterious expert, he had used up 1 chance. Today was the 2nd time, so it could still be used once more. Of course, Chu Hen was also in a situation where he had no other choice. In that situation, just now, Chu Hen had 2 choices. One was to use the life-saving jade pendant, and the other was to consume the post-cauldron rebirth pill that the flying immortal hall master, Chi Han Yu, had bestowed upon him. But in comparison, the former was safer. It's about time to be the Oriole. Don't disappoint me. Then, Chu Hen flew up and looked at his surroundings. After determining his location, he turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the horizon. To Chu Hen, the ancient desolation heaven domain was like a brand new world. Here, the various sects, forces, and races wouldn't have any restrictions or restraints. Many hostile sects could settle their grudges without any fear. Rather than saying that the ancient desolation heaven domain was a blessed land left behind by the great figures of the past generations, it was more like a place of competition. Survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. Did I go in the wrong direction? Soon, Chu Hen discovered that he had chosen the wrong direction. Previously, the deep pool was located under a cliff, and there was plenty of vegetation nearby. However, this place was a desolate desert. Without much hesitation, Chu Hen changed his direction and continued to move forward. Right now, he still did not know the specific situation of Mount Kunliu and the blood refining hall. After cleaning up the mess at the deep pool, he had to hurry back to Mount Kunliu's team as soon as possible. About a quarter of an hour later, Chu Hen successfully returned to the deep pool. Before even reaching the deep pond, Chu Hen could clearly feel an incomparably intense, heaven-shaking turbulence. The mountains trembled, the vegetation swayed, and the ferocious beast roars shook in all directions. Chu Hen was secretly shocked. As expected, it was a terrifying existence that was comparable to the death evil beast. Previously, he had personally witnessed the giant beast of the deep pool killing 4 experts of the Earth's profound realm in an instant. It seemed like he had made the right choice in luring the evil beast of death here. Immediately, Chu Hen concealed his aura and quietly approached the front. As soon as he arrived at the deep pool, Chu Hen was instantly stunned by the scene in front of him. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. The originally clear blue pool could be described as overturning rivers and seas, and the soil slopes in the middle of the pool were all gone. Inside the pool, 2 terrifying monsters were engaged in a fierce battle. In addition to the death evil beast, which was covered with shells, the other monster had many strong tentacles with suckers and a crimson soft body. Its appearance was very similar to a giant octopus. However, it was different from an octopus in that its head was more like a giant skull. Its dark and evil appearance was like a creature from hell, which made people shudder. Chu Hen's eyes slightly narrowed, and his face showed a bit of surprise. It was the first time for him to see this kind of demon beast, and he had never even heard of it before. However, It was undeniable that the opponent's fighting strength was particularly strong. Boom! Bang! The fight between the demon beasts was far more wild and rude than that of human beings. The tentacles of the skull octopus entangled the body of the death-evil beast, which constantly struggled and fiercely stabbed the head of the opponent with its giant scorpion claws. Jia. The demonic beast of death with two heads was even more brutal. Its whole body was emitting a thick black wave of air. Then, it let out a sharp whistle. The poisonous scorpion stinger that was hidden on its back suddenly pierced through the air and pierced the skull octopus's face with a strong and dangerous aura. Woo! The skull octopus immediately let out a bugle-like cry, and at the same time, the skin of the opponent that was hit instantly changed from crimson to dark purple. With one hit, the death-evil beast was extremely excited. It waved its claws and once again stabbed the eyes of the opponent. However, the skull octopus stood up with its tentacles, lifted its huge body, and climbed onto the back of the death-evil beast. Following that, the skull octopus's huge mouth opened, and sharp parrot-like teeth came out of its mouth, and quickly bit the head of the ant queen of the death-evil beast. The death-evil beast had a bad feeling and struggled with all its might. However, this time, the skull octopus was obviously faster and immediately closed its sharp parrot-like teeth. Bang! With an explosive sound, the ant queen's head exploded like a watermelon, and all kinds of stinky red and white mucus splattered everywhere. Woo jia! The heavily injured death-evil beast rolled violently in the water, and huge waves rose to the sky. The skull octopus tightly wrapped around the death-evil beast, and the suckers on each of its tentacles were firmly attached to the body of the death-evil beast. No matter how much the death-evil beast struggled, the skull octopus would not let go. The clear pond was stirred up and became extremely turbid. The death-evil beast wanted to climb out, but the skull octopus was struggling to drag it down. The scene of the two beasts fighting was very spectacular. Buzz! However, at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly shrouded the world. Swish! In the next moment, a bright green holy sword flew high up in the sky and attracted the power of heaven from all directions. The green holy sword rotated rapidly, stirring up the sky, and immediately transformed into thousands of peerless sword shadows. The thousands of sword shadows transformed into a magnificent and peerless sword rainbow. The biting cold, murderous aura crushed the whole area. The two ferocious beasts below didn't even have time to react, and the thousands of peerless sword shadows slanted down like the nine heavens Milky Way, rolling up an endless destructive aura and attacking their bodies. Bang! The air waves soared to the sky, and the sword light flashed. The swift and fierce sword shadows penetrated the skull octopus's head and the death-evil beast's back. In an instant, blood rained down, and the ferocious beasts wailed. Chapter 764. Hiss! A circle of powerful sword chi waves swept across the deep pool below. Layers of ripples surged up, and the central area of the pool sank deeply. A scarlet rain of blood quickly dyed the pool red, and it spread to the surroundings. Roar! Woo! After a short and hurried wail, the huge bodies of the skeletal octopus and the demonic beast of death were like overturned ships. With a bang sound, they heavily smashed onto the ground, splashing countless splashes that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Shio! Soon after, the blue Ran sword dragged out a vigorous airwave light image in the air and returned to Chu Hen's palm. Standing at the peak of the mountain, Chu Hen looked down at the deep pool. He looked at the death demonic beast that had died in the arms of the skeletal octopus and slowly let out a sigh of relief. Killing this death demonic beast had made a great contribution to Mount Kunliu. Even so, Chu Hen couldn't help but shake his head. In his opinion, it wasn't worth it to use up a life-saving opportunity to lure the death demonic beast here. After all, this was only the first day in the ancient desolate heaven domain. What they would encounter in the future was still unknown, especially for Wu Wang Valley, where Yi Yao was. He had to be fully prepared to face the young Valley Master, Shinto Etienne. But now, he didn't even know where the team from Wuwang Valley was. When he thought of this, Chu Hen suddenly felt that there were still many things he had yet to accomplish. Let's meet up with the team first. Chu Hen murmured softly. He immediately prepared to leave, but just as he turned around, he subconsciously glanced at the pool and was suddenly stunned. Something unexpected happened. The skeletal octopus and the death demonic beast corpses had shrunk a lot. What was going on? Chu Hen frowned slightly. He knew that some demonic beasts had the ability to change their size, but they had already been killed by him. The two corpses didn't have that ability. Then, under Chu Hen's increasingly shocked gaze, the corpses of the two demonic beasts shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. Compared to before, their bodies had shrunk a lot. Something is devouring their blood essence. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow's voice rang in Chu Hen's mind. Chu Hen was slightly startled. He glanced sideways and said, "Can you not say the same thing every time? It scares people to death." "What else?" "Wait until I want to ask you. Then you can speak." "I wasn't in the mood at that time." The man retorted in disdain. Chu Hen couldn't help laughing. He gently sniffed and returned to the topic. "What did you say just now? There's something underwater? You'll know once you go down and take a look." Chu Hen was a little hesitant. "What? Are you afraid of death?" The saintly winged heavenly flame sparrow continued to make sarcastic remarks. "Don't worry. There are no signs of living beings below. In other words, that ghost octopus is the only living being here." Ghost octopus? Chu Hen was slightly surprised. The name was quite vivid. In just a few blinks of an eye, the skeletal octopus and the demonic beast of death were left with a layer of dry skin and an empty shell. Their blood essence was sucked dry in an instant. Looking at the scene before him, the curiosity in Chu Hen's heart was completely aroused. Then, with a movement of his body, he turned into a beam of light and plunged into the water like a sharp sword. After the fierce battle, the deep pool quickly calmed down. The turbid pool water also slowly became clear again. The cold current penetrated the true essence defense layer and attacked Chu Hen. He raised his guard and dived into the deep pool. Although the saintly winged heavenly flame sparrow said that there were no signs of living beings underwater, this was the ancient desolate heaven realm. He had to show respect to anything unknown. The deep pool was very deep, dark, and cold. Because it was close to the mountain wall, there were many cold and hard rocks and caves underwater. The pitch-black caves gave off a mysterious and unfathomable feeling of oppression. A ferocious underwater creature could rush out at any time. Slowly and unknowingly, Chu Hen had already reached a depth of nearly a kilometer. In the dark underwater world, a ray of refracted light was caught by the corner of Chu Hen's eyes. Following this weak light, he could vaguely feel a trace of ruthless aura. This ruthless aura originated from the demonic beast of death and the skeletal octopus's blood essence. "Looks like I'll know what's going on soon." Chu Hen's eyes were slightly cold as he followed the refracted light. Immediately after, a gentle light pattern illuminated the space below. In such a dark and cold environment, the light was like a bright moon in the endless night, dazzling and dazzling. There were countless large and small rocks piled up at the bottom of the clear water. In the center of the rocks, there was a strange stone that looked like a gem. This stone was oval, 3 to 4 meters long and 2 meters wide. It looked like a large inkstone. The inkstone had a jade-white luster, and it was covered with exquisite stone patterns. "What's that?" Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and approached the inkstone. He saw that the stone patterns on it were bright red and emitted an astonishing ruthless aura. It was the power of the demonic beast of death and the skeletal octopus's blood essence. The patterns formed by the blood essence slowly flowed on the inkstone and seeped into it. Very quickly, all the stone patterns disappeared without a trace. However, the light emitted by the inkstone was surging with strands of dense red mist. What a strange thing. As soon as Chu Hen finished speaking, the sacred winged heavenly flame bird's excited voice sounded, It's actually the immortal breeding inkstone. Damn, Brat, I don't know what kind of dog shit luck you have. Immortal breeding inkstone? What's this? Shuhen was both excited and puzzled. You don't know? That's right. With your level, it's impossible for you to come into contact with something of that level. The sacred winged heavenly flame bird said. Shuhen rolled his eyes in annoyance. Can you only talk about this? I'm in a hurry. The other party snorted and said with a slightly moved expression, let's put it simply. The immortal breeding inkstone is a material used to forge artifacts. What? Artifact? Hiss. Even Shuhen could not help but gasp when he heard these two words. He did not expect the stone in front of him to have such a great origin. This was indeed a level that he could not come into contact with. Apart from that, the greatest effect of the immortal breeding inkstone is that it can absorb all kinds of energy from the outside and store it. If it's used to forge artifacts, it can greatly increase the grade and power of a weapon. After listening to the other party's explanation, Shuhen narrowed his eyes and rubbed his chin. To you, just the material used to forge artifacts shouldn't be enough to make you so excited, right? Chapter 765. The immortal incubation inkstone was a precious material used to refine divine weapons. Divine weapons only existed in legends to the current Shuhen. Not to mention coming into contact with one, he hadn't even heard of one. On the other hand, this immortal spirit-giving inkstone that was a few meters wide required at least 2,000 to 3,000 years to be nurtured. Once it was released to the outside world, the sects and powers of the entire Easter Victory State would probably fight to the death for it. After listening to the Saintwing Heavenly Flame Sparrow's explanation, Shuhen's heart was filled with restless waves, and his eyes flickered with a hint of pleasant surprise. The ancient desolate heaven territory is really filled with treasures. I never expected such a precious treasure to be hidden in a pool like this. Take it. Shuhen didn't even think before he started to take the immortal incubation inkstone. Because this immortal incubation inkstone was connected to a huge rock below, Shuhen first used the blue sky sword to cut the entire immortal incubation inkstone apart from the rock layer. The immortal incubation inkstone that emanated dense energy looked like a peculiar bed made of cold jade, and it revealed an extremely pure and powerful fluctuation of energy. I'll take it with me first and slowly study it later. Shuhen immediately placed the immortal incubation inkstone into a separate storage device. After doing all this, Shuhen's figure flashed, and he moved towards the top of the pool. Rumble! The surging water exploded on the surface of the deep pool, and Shuhen flashed high up into the sky along with a wave of water mist. He glanced at the two withered corpses of the enormous beasts that floated on the surface of the water, and he didn't stay here any longer. He swiftly returned to the way he came from. Not long after, the desolate city where the fierce battle between Mount Kunliu and the Blood Refinement Hall had erupted gradually appeared within Shuhen's field of vision. After the chaotic battle, the desolate city had returned to its usual deathly silence and peace. However, the difference was that the desolate city had been reduced to ruins, and all the buildings in the city had been reduced to ruins. As far as the eye could see, the ground was littered with corpses and dead venomous insects, snakes, and ants. Looks like the battlefield has shifted. I wonder if Mount Kunliu has successfully retreated. Shuhen muttered softly. The battle between the sects was indeed intense. In the blink of an eye, an entire city had been destroyed. Moreover, based on a previous situation, Qi Hanyu, Wen Liang, Ho Lai, and Liao Qixu had held back. They all knew that this was only the beginning of the ancient desolate heaven domain. After staying here for a while, Shuhen once again headed in the direction of Mount Kunliu's retreat. Walking in the air, he was particularly cautious about the surrounding environment. After all, in this case, there was a higher probability of encountering the people of the Blood Refining Hall first. At that time, before they could regroup with their companions, they would be killed. Very soon, day and night changed, and it was already evening. As the sky continued to darken, the traces left behind by the team in front were gradually covered by the night sky. Especially in this strange environment, it was even more difficult to determine the direction and route. Not long after, Chu Hen discovered that he had already lost the target of his pursuit. In all directions, there was only desolation and silence. I can only try my luck. Immediately, Chu Hen randomly chose a direction and began to pursue. However, another 4 hours passed, and he still found nothing. Looking at the unfamiliar towering mountains and precipitous ridges, rock caves, and deep ravines, Chu Hen's face revealed a helpless smile. It seemed that the more he chased, the further he went. This time, he had completely lost the target of the main group. However, on second thought, the biggest threat, the death evil beast, had already been trapped and killed by him. In addition, under the leadership of the Fairy Temple Master and the Demon-Slaying Temple Master, they should not be defeated by the Blood-Refining Hall. After all, Mount Kunliu was an upper-class sect in the Dongxing state. How could it be destroyed here so easily? Thinking of this, Chu Hen's eyebrows relaxed, and the worry in his eyes faded away. At this moment, a strange chill suddenly rose in the surroundings. Chu Hen was slightly startled. Following that, he discovered that a dense fog had risen from the mountain forest in front of him. The misty white fog was like the water vapor and dust that floated in the air. It quickly enveloped the entire area and spread towards Chu Hen's location. Very quickly, Chu Hen's body was restricted by the dense fog, and he could only see a distance of around 200 meters. It was normal for it to be foggy at night. Chu Hen did not have too many other thoughts. However, the mist made Chu Hen lose the only remaining sense of direction. Then he could only move aimlessly according to his feelings. Chu Hen bypassed the deep mountains and cliffs, but Chu Hen could not walk out of the area shrouded in the mist. Not only that, but the area he reached was even more deserted and desolate. Swoosh! Suddenly, a sharp and hurried sound of something breaking through the wind came from behind him. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he shouted coldly, "Who is attacking me from behind?" A beam of dark golden light was reflected in his indifferent eyes. Chu Hen was slightly surprised. What appeared in front of him was actually a strange bone bird. There was no flesh or blood on this bone bird's body, and only a skeleton was left. In its empty eye sockets, a pair of blood-red eyes shone with a strange light. Not a living creature? Chu Hen was stunned. He could feel a thick death aura from the other party's body. If it was a living creature, it should not have such a heavy death aura. Chu Hen instinctively dodged to the side. Swoosh! The bone bird flew past his shoulder. Then, it drew an arc in the air and charged towards Chu Hen again. It was fast like an arrow leaving the bow and was very aggressive. Again, a sliver of disdain appeared on Chu Hen's face. He swung his palm out, and the boundless force of his palm surged down like a violent wave. In an instant, it struck the body of the bone bird. The latter was directly shattered into fragments of light that filled the sky. They fluttered in all directions and disappeared without a trace. However, after a while, Chu Hen discovered that in the sky above the forest in the area ahead, there were still rays of beautiful golden light flickering. The light rays moved freely in the fog. When he looked carefully, the light rays were all kinds of strange creatures. Most of these creatures were skeleton-like things, and they looked very evil. What the hell are these things? Chu Hen was even more confused. He immediately asked the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow, "Do you know? Demon spirit. Looks like you've unintentionally entered a land of extreme negative energy." Demon spirit? Land of extreme negative energy? Chu Hen frowned slightly. What's a demon spirit? It's a group of spirits that have almost no intelligence. They're formed from the remnant thoughts and souls of dead creatures. Demon spirits don't have a physical body, and they don't have any thoughts. The only thing they can do is to continuously obtain spiritual energy to survive in this world. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow explained. The birth of a demon spirit requires a place with a lot of yin qi, and the spirit qi also needs to reach a relatively abundant level. Some demon spirits can even attach themselves to flowers, trees, birds, insects, and strange beasts to survive, and even some objects and tools can become their shelter. The reason why that bone bird attacked you just now was because you have a lot of spirit chi in your body, and it was completely subconscious. I see. The world is really big, and there are all kind of strange things. However, they're not aggressive at all. That's not necessarily the case. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow refuted Chu Hen's thoughts. Although demon spirits generally don't have any intelligence, they're still dangerous. Some demon spirits will continuously devour other demon spirits or some treasures during the process of strengthening. After a long time, there'll be powerful existences among the demon spirits. I've seen a demon spirit at the profound heaven stage before. No way. Chu Hen felt chills running up his spine when he heard the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow's words. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow added, "However, in my opinion, there won't be a demon spirit at that level in the ancient desolate heaven realm." The corner of Chu Hen's eyes twitched slightly. This stupid bird was really good at playing tricks. He was almost fooled by it. Chapter 766. Chu Hen looked at the white fog that enveloped the mountain forest, as well as the demon spiritual body that was moving through the white fog. Following the sacred-winged heavenly flame bird's suggestion, Chu Hen immediately landed on the ground. He would stay here for the time being and would leave after daybreak tomorrow. At daybreak, the day and night cycle would change, with the sun dominating. At that time, the yin qi would weaken and most of the demon spirits would go into hibernation. Although the demon spirits were creatures with low intelligence or no intelligence, they were more aggressive. In a situation where the road ahead was full of uncertainty, waiting for the day to move was the best choice. Once he returned to the ground, there were also many demon spirits gathered. However, these demon spirits were basically of a lower level. There were enchanting tree spirit vines, strange frogs running around everywhere, and some small stone monsters. Compared to the withered bone demon spirits flying in the sky, the little fairies on the ground were much cuter. There were even a few palm-sized stone demon spirits jumping around Chu Hen's feet, as if they were trying to attract their attention. Chu Hen could not help but laugh. These little things did not have any offensive power, so there was no need to get rid of them. Soon after, Chu Hen temporarily rested on a soft, grassy field, waiting for the arrival of dawn. Woo! Ayo! The mountain forest was especially lively at night. From time to time, loud cries could be heard coming from the deep canyon in the distance. From time to time, a few demon spirits collided with each other, and a battle broke out. The chirping of insects, the whistling of birds, and the singing of nightingales. Listening to the lively music around him, Chu Hen's eyes became a little hazy, and he faintly felt the urge to sleep. Screech! At this moment, a loud and clear bird cry sounded in his mind. Chu Hen's body trembled, as if he had woken up from a dream. Then, he felt his heart beat violently, and even his blood flowed quickly. "What's wrong with you now?" Chu Hen frowned. Just as he was about to scold, he found that there were many demon spirits gathered around him. Pairs of strange red pupils were like fierce wolves and dogs staring at their prey. Scram! Chu Hen secretly roared. A powerful aura gushed out from his body. A circle of majestic black light spread out in a sweeping manner, completely shattering the demonic spiritual bodies that were eyeing him covetously. "Sorry." Then Chu Hen said apologetically. "Oomph." The sacred-winged heavenly flame bird snorted coldly and mocked. "You're not afraid of death. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want in the ancient desolate heaven domain with your cultivation?" Chu Hen touched his nose. "I was careless. I don't know why I felt sleepy just now. The yin qi here is too heavy. The yang qi in your body has been weakened, and it's easy for you to fall into a coma." "I see. Thank you for your concern." Chu Hen laughed heartily. This was the first time he was sincerely grateful to the other party. After a brief silence, the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow's voice rang out again. "It seems like I need to teach you a secret technique." "Oh." Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, "What secret technique?" "This secret technique is called the Sea of Universe technique. The name sounds pretty scary. Get lost if you don't want to learn it." "I didn't say I don't want to learn it. Continue." Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and shook his head with a smile. Idiot. Don't beg me to teach you after I'm done. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow was displeased and continued. This universal absorption technique can allow your true origin violet palace to form a little world that can contain the energy of everything in the world. Isn't it already? Chu Hen asked in confusion. Your current true origin violet palace is only able to contain and collect shapeless spirit energy, yet it's unable to contain material substances. Whereas, the world absorption art can absorb some weapons, sacred objects, precious treasures, and other material substances into the true origin violet palace. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow explained. Wait, you mean to say that my true origin violet palace can be turned into a storage ring? Yes, it's similar. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes slightly twitched. He suddenly had a feeling that he had nothing better to do. He had a storage device. So why did he have to spend so much effort to turn his true Yuan violet palace into a storage ring? It was really boring. However, based on his understanding of the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow, Chu Hen thought it would not come up with such a boring secret technique to kill time. He immediately asked, then what? After that, you'll be able to store some treasures into your true essence violet palace. And according to the different characteristics of those treasures, you'll be able to strengthen your true essence violet palace. What I'm thinking of now is that immortal spirit nurturing inkstone. If you were to absorb it into your true essence violet palace, the immortal spirit nurturing inkstone will be able to absorb the immortal spirit energy of the world. Hearing these words, Chu Hen's eyes couldn't help but light up. That's right. Why didn't I think of the celestial nurturing inkstone's characteristics of absorbing the essence of the sun, moon, and heaven and earth spirit energy? If I put it in my true origin violet palace, wouldn't I be in a state of cultivation at all times? At that time, he would be able to enjoy the fruits of others' labor and save a lot of cultivation time. Do you still want to learn it now? The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow sneered frivolously. Chu Hen rubbed his forehead. How difficult is this secret technique? How long will it take to complete? It's not very difficult. It varies from person to person. A smart person would be able to complete it in a day, but a stupid person would not be able to complete it even after 3 to 5 years. In fact, at the level I was at, almost all experts put their weapons and treasures in their true origin violet palace. After a weapon is immersed in true origin energy for a long time, not only will it gradually strengthen the weapon, but it will also become easier to use. After hearing this, Chu Hen came to a sudden realization and could not help but be tempted. But I still don't understand why you're suddenly so good to me. You're thinking too much. There are still many opportunities in the ancient desolate heaven domain. If you can grasp it well, I can quickly return to my peak. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow had been in Chu Hen's body for so long that it understood each other's thoughts very well. There was no need for the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow to lie to it. At the very least, it was certain that the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow would definitely not harm Chu Hen. After all, to the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow, helping Chu Hen was equivalent to helping itself. All right, but I still have to thank you. Then, it took out hundreds of high-grade origin crystals and scattered them around to set up a small defensive talisman array. I hope I'm not the stupid person you're talking about. That's hard to say. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow mocked indifferently. Then, it began to guide Chu Hen in detail on how to cultivate the universal absorption technique. Chapter 767. The mountain forest that was shrouded in fog was like a heavenly barrier that blocked the sky. The vast expanse of white was like a majestic gorge. Even though it was nighttime, it still gave off a majestic aura that seemed like it could dominate the galaxy. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. The fog that permeated the mountain still showed no signs of dissipating. Moreover, every night it would be chaotic and noisy. Many strange demon spirits circled around like a group of demons dancing. At this moment, in a defensive formation surrounded by spiritual patterns, Chu Hen sat on the ground, his expression as steady as a rock his hands placed flat on his knees. In front of his dantian, there was a ball of golden light floating. The light was like a ball of string, spinning slowly and steadily. Buzz, buzz. An obscure and restless energy wave was constantly emitted from Chu Hen's body, and the surrounding space faintly produced a strange rhythm. The ball of light expanded and shrunk from time to time. Then Chu Hen slowly raised his arms, his palms facing the ball of light. A powerful wave of air fluttered his clothes and black hair, and the invisible aura seemed to control the stars. Under Chu Hen's gradual control, the ball of light was violently restless, like a bulging water ball that was wantonly swaying. The speed of rotation continued to increase, and along with a strong and dazzling light pattern, a whirlpool-like hole suddenly formed in the center of the ball of light. This hole seemed to be a door that led to a certain space. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched, and his pupils constricted. Then he raised his hand, Hua. A wave of air trembled, and a dazzling ice jade bed that emitted a dense aura landed on the ground in front of him. Withdraw, Chu Hen shouted in a low voice, and with a buzz, a strong wave of air spread out, and the whirlpool-like hole in the center of the golden ball of light released an astonishing suction force towards the immortal pregnancy stone. Then, the immortal pregnancy stone seemed to be enveloped by a ball of gentle light, and it slowly left the ground. Swish! Then, it turned into a stream of light and instantly entered the golden ball of light, disappearing in front of Chu Hen. Success! Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and then his consciousness moved, diving into the purple palace of true essence. The true origin violet palace of the second level of the Earth profound realm was merely like a primal chaos space that had opened up a territory. But it was not an exaggeration to say that anyone who saw the appearance of this true origin violet palace would be shocked to the point of being dumbstruck. The chaos force, which was comparable to the fiend god's body, and the fiend god's eyes, which were like the eyes of a fiend god, each guarded one direction. The dark lightning force covered the sky, and the seven stars force and the yin-yang force remained here, screech. This time there was also a holy sparrow that was exuding an aura that looked down on all things. Rumble. At this moment, accompanied by the sound of rolling stones, a mountain ridge split open and a cold jade stone bed slowly rose up. The immortal spirit breeding inkstone was placed at the top of the mountain ridge like a divine stone. Dazzling lines of light extended from the ground and quickly circled around the immortal spirit breeding inkstone. Then, something amazing happened. The immortal spirit breeding inkstone was like a treasure that had been activated. It released a flickering light, and wisps of pure spirit energy flowed along the lines of light on the ground and merged into the earth. Buzz, buzz! In an instant, Chu Hen's true essence violet palace produced a slight rhythm, and the surrounding primal chaos slowly opened up at a slow speed. Many of the barren ground and mountain ridges had actually sprouted green grass. What pure energy! Chu Hen was secretly pleasantly surprised, as expected of a treasure used to refine divine artifacts. The immortal spirit breeding inkstone was like a special heart of the earth that continuously delivered blood. What was even more amazing was that Chu Hen could already feel the spirit energy of heaven and earth flowing into his body on its own. He didn't need to deliberately absorb it. How is it? I didn't lie to you. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow spun in the air, its powerful aura covering the sky and earth. Chu Hen was overjoyed. Then, with a thought, he activated the sea of heaven and earth technique. The path connecting his true essence violet palace to the outside world opened once again. Whoosh! Then, two black shadows suddenly flashed over. The black shadows swept up a powerful aura and landed on a mound. Thump! The ground trembled slightly, and the yin and yang energy that permeated the air became especially restless. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow was slightly surprised. Upon closer inspection, it saw that it was a stone that was half a meter tall and the size of a fist. It was the fragment of the great Tao Divine Stone that Chu Hen had obtained. One of the fragments was given to Chu Hen by Yi Yao, and it possessed astonishing yin and yang energy. Once the two fragments of the great Tao Divine Stone entered this place, Chu Hen immediately used the spirit patterns formed by his true essence to circle around the two fragments. In the next moment, a wave of restless yin and yang energy surged out from the Godstone fragment and spread in all directions. It really worked. Chu Hen was once again pleasantly surprised. Just now, he only had the thought of giving it a try, to see if the power contained in the fragment of the great Tao Divine Stone could fuse with his own power in the Zhen Yuan Violet Palace. He didn't expect that it would be useful. The legendary great Tao Divine Stone was a supreme treasure between heaven and earth. It had the shocking power to manipulate the universe and move the stars. Just one of the fragments was enough to benefit Chu Hen. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the power of the entire great Tao Divine Stone was. Feeling the subtle changes in the true essence Violet Palace, Chu Hen opened his eyes and revealed a satisfied smile. As soon as the spiritual energy floating in the forest came into contact with Chu Hen's skin, it was automatically absorbed. He didn't need to control it at all. From today onwards, he was in a state of cultivation at all times. Based on this situation, it wouldn't be long before he could complete a breakthrough in cultivation. In just a few short days, he had another harvest. Chu Hen's mood was very good, but very quickly, he discovered a slightly serious problem. He discovered that after so many days had passed, his surroundings were still a vast expanse of whiteness. The dense fog had not dispersed. This is so strange. There must be something wrong. Chu Hen removed the defensive glyphs and stood up to look around. It should be daytime right now, and the sun's rays were not enough to disperse the fog. Something unusual must have happened here. After hesitating for a while, Chu Hen randomly chose a direction and walked. He didn't know if he chose the right direction or if it was for some other reason, but the fog in front of him gradually thinned. From the original 200 meters or so, it gradually increased to more than 500 meters. After around half an hour, Chu Hen could already see the scene thousands of meters away. However, just as he thought that he was about to walk out of this region, Chu Hen was once again stunned. In front of him was an extremely majestic and huge canyon. The canyon extended all the way forward, stacked on top of each other. The further he went, the deeper it became. The cliffs on both sides were extremely steep. Looking from afar, they looked like giant flood dragons and pythons stretching their heads out. Chapter 768. Looking at the magnificent canyon in front of him, Chu Hen suddenly had a feeling that his horizons had been broadened. It was something he had never seen before. It was so powerful. But what made Chu Hen vigilant was that this vast canyon gave off a mysterious sense of danger. The fog that hadn't dissipated after so many days might have something to do with this. Driven by curiosity, Chu Hen's figure moved. Like an eagle returning from its nest, he gracefully glided towards the gorge in front of him. Whoosh! The cool and refreshing valley wind blew against his face, making rapid whistling sounds in his ears. A few winged birds in the sky in front of him spread their wings and flew into the air, opening up a wide path for Chu Hen. Dancing with an eagle felt indescribably carefree. The mountain ridges and cliffs on both sides were constantly left behind by Chu Hen. The thin clouds were like smoke curling up in spirals, dancing between heaven and earth. Not long after, Chu Hen arrived at the depths of the canyon. And the deeper he went, the wider the terrain became, and the steeper the surrounding mountain walls became. Soon, Chu Hen unexpectedly discovered that there were many skeletons on the ground of the canyon below. These skeletons belonged to both demonic beasts and humans. From the degree of damage to the skeletons, he could tell that they were from a very long time ago. Woo! Just as Chu Hen was thinking about what had happened here in the past, a loud and clear howl of a wolf soared into the sky and resounded in all directions. Chu Hen was slightly startled. He looked up and saw a giant wolf with alternating blue and white for 1,000 meters away, howling at the sky. The demonic wolf stood proudly on the peak of the mountain wall. Its body was huge, more than 100 meters wide. It was also wrapped in a strange armor of thorns. From afar, it looked like it was wearing a layer of hedgehog armor. It was invincible and had a peerless aura. It was a demonic spirit. From the strong aura of death emitted from its body and the pair of blood-red eyes, it was obvious that this demonic wolf was not a real demonic beast, but a demonic spirit. Even though it was a species with low intelligence, it didn't look like it was easy to deal with. Shu-Hen had no intention of rushing up to fight it out with the other party. He immediately lowered his flying altitude and circled around the back of a mountain wall, directly avoiding the demon wolf's line of sight. Next, Shu-Hen encountered many powerful demon spirit bodies. At the same time, more and more skeletons and corpses appeared in the canyon. Towards the end, it was a vast expanse of white, and skeletons were piled up like a mountain. A thick ancient death chi filled the air. Shu-Hen frowned and murmured, "No wonder the chi here is so thick. So this is a 10,000 spirit pit." The number of demonic beasts and human experts who had died here was definitely more than 10,000. Coupled with the unique back-to-the-sun terrain, where Yin flourished and Yang diminished, countless demon spirits were born. It seemed that he was getting closer and closer to the truth. Shu-Hen became more and more cautious. He looked up at the sky, which was shrouded in white mist. It was much darker than before. Unknowingly, the evening had quietly arrived, and night would come again. It was getting dark. Should he go forward or leave first? The night was the time when the demon spirits were the most active, and the risk factor would also increase exponentially. But he had already come this far. If he retreated now, it would more or less feel like he was giving up halfway. After a short moment of hesitation, Shu-Hen once again flew up and rushed towards the depths of the forest. Boom! In less than half a cup of tea's time, a chaotic and noisy turbulence came from afar. The mighty momentum was like thousands of soldiers and horses were fighting. Shu-Hen was shocked again. What was going on? Immediately, he turned into a stream of light and quietly sneaked into the area in front of him along the side of the mountain wall. The closer he got to the front, the more violent the turbulence was. Endless battle cries resounded in all directions, and even the ground of the mountain was faintly trembling. Only a relatively large-scale battle would cause such turbulence. When Shu-Hen saw the scene in front of him, he was immediately shocked. Thousands of troops were fighting in a chaotic battle. The corner of Shu-Hen's eyes narrowed, and a lot of astonishment surged between his eyebrows. The magnificent and huge canyon was like a natural large funnel. The sky lost its color, and the black tide was surging. The two opposing forces were fighting fiercely. Under the cold armor were the strange and evil skeletons. In their empty eye sockets, a pair of scarlet eyes were full of death. The demon spirit army. Shu-Hen was especially flabbergasted. It was very clear that the army that was currently fighting were not real humans, but demon spirits that were derived from remnant souls. But what exactly was it for? Even after death, the two sides were still fighting each other. Even if they were reduced to bones, they still refused to let go of their obsession. Kill! Charge! In the midst of the slaughter, the army's soul was still there. The hollow sounds seemed to be emitted after being amplified, and the entire valley was filled with the earth-shaking battle cries. Shu-Hen retracted his aura and hid in the dark to observe the battle. One side was dressed in red battle armor, while the other side was dressed in blue. The battle formation of these heroic souls was simple and violent. They slashed with their swords and stabbed with their spears. The demonic spirits that were struck and killed would turn into wisps of smoke like dust and disappear from the world. They had completely disappeared from the world. These people were all experts when they were alive. Shu-Hen softly muttered. From the scene in front of him, it could be seen that these demon spirits still possessed combat strength that was stronger than ordinary people. This was enough to prove that they were not ordinary people when they were alive. Of course, how many of those who could come to the ancient desolate heaven domain were ordinary people? The battle continued, and it became more and more intense. The entire canyon was enveloped in a chilly wind. The dark clouds seemed like they could collapse at any time. Bolts of lightning shot out from within, resonating with the chaotic battle below. Among the demon spirit army, there were many heroic souls with relatively strong combat strength. With a single slash, he swept through dozens of enemies, blasting them into powder and crystal fragments. They were as brave as they were when they were alive, and they did not hesitate to kill their enemies. After observing for a while, Chu Hen discovered the problem. It seemed that while the heroic soul armies were fighting, they were all trying to occupy a protruding stone platform in the middle of the valley. As the situation was too chaotic, Chu Hen did not discover that there was a high platform in the middle of the valley. Looking over, the high platform was pentagonal. It was about 300 meters wide and 50 meters tall. The stone platform looked very desolate, and it gave off the feeling that it was an ancient altar. With the dim light, Chu Hen could vaguely see that there were many strange and exquisite runes engraved around the stone platform. It was extremely mysterious. Their goal is to occupy that stone platform, Chu Hen said in a low voice. It seemed like he was talking to himself, but it also seemed like he was telling the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow. What was on it? Demon spirits did not have any intelligence. Their instinct was to do their best to attach themselves to or plunder heavenly treasures with abundant spiritual energy. They would gradually strengthen themselves and continue to live in this world. In other words, Chu Hen's eyes lit up. It was very likely that there was some kind of treasure within that ancient stone platform. Chu Hen's heart was filled with anticipation. Just what kind of treasure could make these dead souls unable to let go of it after they died? In the blink of an eye, the stone platform was already occupied by many demon spirits. However, neither side was able to occupy an overwhelming advantage. They were completely evenly matched, and no one could do anything to the other. Boom! Suddenly, an extremely astonishing power fluctuation came from the rear of the two armies of dead souls. Along with a sharp and rapid wind breaking momentum, a golden stream of light and a black beam of light were like aurora phantoms flying in from outer space. At the same time, they swept up a powerful aura and charged towards the stone platform. Bang! A heavy explosion suddenly reverberated in the valley, and a circle of surging waves of light swept out like a tide. The terrifying impact soared into the sky, and along with the demon spirit military souls that were crushed into smoke, a deep crack appeared on the stone platform as well. Buzz! Buzz! The cracked stone platform actually released an obscure energy fluctuation, and rays of gentle and dim light seeped out from the crack. Boom! At the same time, the golden stream of light and the black light also flew into the sky, and like red-eyed enemies, they did not say a word and fiercely fought with each other. Chu Hen's attention was once again attracted by this sudden scene. When he saw the two light shadows clearly, Chu Hen's pupils shrank faintly. He saw that the two light shadows were actually two weapons. One of the black shadows was a long spear. The sharp spearhead was long and narrow in the shape of a rhombus. Connecting the spearhead to the middle of the spear body was a strange, level one joint bone. It was like the spine of a dragon. It had an extraordinary aura and could move people's hearts. On the other hand, the other golden light was a silver saber. This silver saber was not gorgeous, and its appearance was relatively simple. It was like the leaves of a cattail grass, and the blade was thick and straight like a sword. Its simplicity revealed an unconcealable sharpness. A demon spirit attached to a weapon. Chu Hen clenched his fists slightly, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. The cultivation of these two demon spirits definitely reached the profound sky realm when they were alive. They should be the strongest here. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow reminded him in a low voice. Profound sky realm? Chu Hen's eyes turned slightly cold, and a look of caution appeared on his face. There were actually two profound sky realm experts buried here. It seemed that things were not as simple as he had imagined, and the situation could change at any time. In the void, the saber soul and the spear soul continued to fight fiercely. Even though they had been reduced to demon spirits, their combat power was still shockingly strong. It could be imagined that in the past, both sides had devoured many heaven and earth treasures, which strengthened their strength to this day. Chapter 769. Boom! In the void, an incomparably sharp black spear with a joint connecting the spearhead and the body was constantly clashing with a silver blade that emitted a shocking sharpness. The two were like mortal enemies that had been entangled for thousands of years. Every time they clashed, space would tremble, light patterns would scatter in all directions, and thousands of rays of light would spread in all directions. Shocking the surroundings, the entire canyon had long been turned into a chaotic battlefield. Tens of thousands of demonic spirit heroic souls had erupted in an intense battle. The skeleton army under the armor looked especially strange and eerie. The magnificent scene before them was not the slightest bit inferior to a real battlefield. Hidden in the dark, Chu-Hen's eyes were a little cautious as he stared at the battle between the blade soul and spear soul in the void. Although both sides were demonic spirits, the impact they displayed could be said to be unusually powerful and ferocious. Apart from that, Chu-Hen had been paying attention to the mysterious stone platform at the center of the canyon from the beginning to the end. Under the impact of the two souls, deep cracks appeared on the stone platform. A gentle golden-red light leaked out from the cracks, and a scorching wave of air spread out in all directions. The restless energy became increasingly intense, as if something that contained a powerful energy was about to break out of the ground. Buzz, buzz! An intense rhythm once again swept out from the empty space. Chu-Hen's eyelids lifted, and he raised his eyes to look. He saw that the cold spear that was swallowing and spitting out powerful black light was emitting a dense aura. The aura continued to expand outwards, and in an instant, it transformed into a powerful flowing wave that enveloped the entire body of the spear. The silver blade was also not to be outdone. Its entire body emitted an extraordinary splendor, as if it had been soaked in the divine splendor of the nine heavens. In an instant, it had turned into a peerlessly powerful blade that could split the sky. Swish! Swish! In the next instant, two powerful light figures that seemed to have flown in from beyond the heavens streaked across the sky, tearing through the air as they collided head-on. Boom! A frightening shockwave that was comparable to the collision of meteorites exploded in the sky. The sky trembled and the land shook. Two enormous wave-like energy ripples shot towards the sky. Gold and black waves intertwined, forming a huge mushroom cloud that directly blasted a large hole in the surging black cloud tide. The army of the dead souls in the canyon below was shattered by the powerful shockwave, and their souls were scattered. Immediately afterward, the two shadows received a huge backlash and flew backward along with the spreading shockwaves. Then, a scene that was even more eye-opening for Chu-Hen occurred. Shio! That long spear retreated to the top of the southern wall. Streaks of black light intertwined with each other and were released. The shape of the cold spear actually changed rapidly. Like a water column, the cold spear actually grew arms and legs. In an instant, it transformed into a giant humanoid skeleton that was more than 10 meters tall. Chi-Chi. The humanoid skeleton emitted a dense aura of death. Its eyes were scarlet like blood, and the black light continued to revolve around its body. Subsequently, a majestic general's armor was formed. The commander of the three armies can be taken, and the world will be unified. A heavy and domineering voice reverberated from the skeleton's mouth, shocking the surroundings. At the same time, the silver blade also flashed to the edge of the northern cliff. Gorgeous golden light patterns also spread out, and the silver blade also twisted and evolved. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a similarly majestic general's armor. Under the armor, there was also a ferocious humanoid skeleton demon spirit. 100 cities slaying the enemy king, lasting eternity. The heavy and ear-piercing roar was like a loudspeaker passing through the valley, causing the blood of those who heard it to faintly boil. The two demon spirits with powerful auras confronted each other from afar. They were like the generals of the three armies. Even if they died, they would still be heroes, fully displaying their might to fight the world. The army of departed souls below the canyon seemed to have received an order. They actually had an uplifting mood and became even more courageous. The commander of the three armies can be taken, and the world will be unified. 100 cities slaying the enemy king, lasting eternity. Roar! In the next instant, the aura of the black skeleton demon spirit that was formed by the cold spear increased by several times. The surging airwaves were monstrous, causing the sky to darken and the earth to turn dark. Immediately after, a huge lizard dragon shadow circled around it. It raised its head and roared towards the sky. Not only was this lizard dragon huge, it also had a pair of wings on its back. Its entire body was covered in rock-like scales, as if it was an ancient creature from the ancient times. This is? Chu Hen's pupils slightly shrank. He couldn't help but clench his fists. His eyes were filled with shock. Then, another earth-shaking roar resounded from the canyon. Roar! Behind the golden skeleton demon spirit that was formed by the silver blade, there were tens of thousands of dazzling holy lights. Immediately after, a majestic white tiger that could shake the mountains and rivers hung high in the sky like a sun. This white tiger's body was surrounded by holy light patterns. Its body was well-built and perfect. When it opened its mouth, a pair of sharp fangs were like two sharp blades. Witnessing the scene in front of him, Chu Hen was completely stunned. At this moment, he was in a trance and began to doubt whether the two large skeletons were really demon spirits with low intelligence. This aura was really unparalleled. Damn brat, get ready. The thing underground is coming out. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow warned Chu Hen. What? Boom. As soon as it finished speaking, a huge dark red wave of light patterns suddenly spread out from the ground of the canyon. It was like a volcanic eruption, and a violent force surged out. In an instant, it was earth-shattering and earth-shattering, accompanied by the ceaseless shaking of the ground. A raging shockwave swept in all directions with crushing force. The scorching red wave engulfed and crushed countless demon spirits in the surroundings. The space fluctuated rhythmically. The stone platform exploded, and the ground opened up like a flower blooming from the earth's core. Buzz, buzz. Along with the endless scorching heat wave, a piece of rock rose from the ground at a speed visible to the naked eye. The rock was dozens of meters tall, like an exquisite finger peak. The surface of the rock was covered in a dark red magma-like substance, but its essence was dark gray. Red light patterns swam all over it, making it very eye-catching. What a powerful energy. Chu Hen's eyes lit up. Even though he was 1,000 meters away, he could still clearly feel the energy waves coming from the rock. It really is the geocentric essence stone, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said with a hint of excitement. Geocentric essence stone? The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. What is this? Just like the immortal spirit-giving inkstone, it is also a supreme-grade material for forging artifacts. It is formed from the spiritual energy of 10,000 years of geocentric essence stone, and the energy it contains is extremely stable and enormous. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow gave a simple explanation. Even though Chu Hen didn't fully understand, it was enough for it to snatch something similar to the immortal spirit-giving inkstone. Take it. Just when Chu Hen was about to take action, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow stopped him and said, "Wait a moment, I have a better idea. Oh." Before he finished speaking, the two huge skeletal demon spirits had already taken action. One on the left and one on the right, they charged towards the geocentric essence stone in the center with a majestic aura. It was every demon spirit's instinct to plunder natural treasures that contained an enormous amount of spiritual energy. Only by continuously swallowing and absorbing those natural treasures would they be able to continuously strengthen themselves and continue to exist in this world. Moreover, this geocentric crystal was a precious treasure that was hard to come by in 1,000 years. One could well imagine how attractive it was to them. Buzz, buzz. Boom! As the two skeletal demon spirits moved, they rapidly transformed into a dragonbone frost spear and a sharp silver blade. The ancient lizard dragon and white tiger behind them let out earth-shattering roars, and a powerful gale swept through the world, enveloping the entire valley. Whoosh! Chapter 770. Wang. Along with a strong energy fluctuation, the spear shadow and saber ray, formed by the two skeletal demon spirits, collided with the geocentric crystal almost at the same time. At this moment, the geocentric crystal that was as big as a small hill was like a volcano that was about to erupt. There seemed to be magma brewing inside as waves of restless energy continued to leak out. Rumble. It was earth-shattering, and the weather changed. The entire canyon was silent as a wild, cold wind shrouded it. After the geocentric crystal was invaded by the two demon spirits, it kept changing strangely. Roar! The lizard dragon roared as a powerful black light surged out like a flame and enveloped the entire geocentric crystal. Roar! As the tiger roared, a dazzling golden light surged out, expelling the black light as it tried to occupy the geocentric crystal. Demon spirits had low intelligence or even no intelligence. Although the attack power of both parties was strong, the way to fight for the treasure was very simple. It was to expel the other party and take the treasure for oneself. However, both parties were evenly matched, and neither could do anything to the other. The crystal of geocentric stone floated in the air above the canyon. Sometimes it was enveloped by a black light, and sometimes it was wrapped in a golden radiance. The two great demon spirits continued to fight against each other. In addition to the rejection of the enormous energy contained within the crystal of geocentric stone, it caused the three forces to converge together and collide, causing the entire canyon to be thrown into chaos. Meanwhile, the departed soul demon spirits in the surroundings had already fallen into chaos. Many of the demon spirits wanted a share of the loot, so they charged toward the geocentric crystal. However, before they could even get close to it, they were crushed by the powerful aura. Chu Hen was shocked and curious. A hint of excitement could be seen in his eyes. He finally understood the sacred winged, heavenly flame sparrow's intention. Get ready. We'll leave immediately after we obtain the geocentric crystal, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said solemnly. All right. Chu Hen nodded as his eyes turned cold. Just as he was about to make his move, a few sounds of wind whistling could be heard as 5 to 6 figures charged toward the geocentric crystal at lightning speed. Hey, I've been waiting for a long time. This earth core crystal is mine. Don't even think about touching it. Everyone who sees it has a share. Don't even think about monopolizing it. There were actually quite a few Orioles. Chu Hen couldn't help squinting his eyes. The ancient desolate heaven domain truly had a group of dragons and tigers, and all of them had hidden themselves so well. Initially, he thought that he was the only one nearby. He did not expect that there would be so many people who wanted to be the fisherman. In the blink of an eye, those people had already rushed to the front of the crystal core stone. They all took out their tools and stretched out their arms, intending to take the treasure before them. However, right at this moment, a majestic aura appeared in the air above the geocentric crystal. Under the suppression of a vast and mighty aura that was almost material, everyone was shocked in their hearts. They raised their heads and saw a winged lizard dragon and a completely snow-white, saber-toothed tiger impressively appear in the sky. Roar! Roar! Along with 2 deafening roars, 3,000 bolts of lightning flashed in the sky. With a loud bang, a golden and black ring of light surged out in all directions with the geocentric crystal as the center. The space slightly distorted, and a terrifying shockwave landed on those people with an earth-shattering force. Everyone who was caught off guard spat out a mouthful of blood as they rapidly retreated. Damn it! Everyone cursed inwardly. They were too careless. Although the 2 demon spirits did not have any intelligence, protecting their food was an instinctive reaction of any living being. As long as someone tried to snatch something from them, they would definitely be attacked. Boom! Suddenly, in the next moment, A sky-piercing silver fist swept out and crushed the two ferocious beast silhouettes in the sky. What? Everyone was shocked once again, and their expressions changed inwardly. Not good. They let others reap the benefits without doing anything. Following that, a young figure gracefully flew across the sky like a swallow returning to its nest. Dazzling and brilliant starlight burst out from his body. Fecta chain, along with a dark shout, 7 iron chains flickering with starlight extended out from his back. Each and every one of the silver iron chains was like a flood dragon or a huge python that swallowed and spat out light. They were also like wings that grew out of Chu Hen's body, dazzling and dazzling. Boom! In an instant, the 7 chains of starlight rapidly extended out, directly binding the geocentric crystal within. Rise! Chu Hen's eyes revealed a deep, cold light. In an instant, he dragged the 10-meter-tall geocentric crystal up and flew in a certain direction without saying a word. From start to finish, the time that Chu Hen used was less than 3 seconds. Before the people around him could react, Chu Hen turned into a beam of light and disappeared into the horizon. No one could even see his appearance clearly. Damn it! How dare he snatch food from the tiger's mouth? I'm going to kill that thing today. That seems to be a move from the Seven Soul Palace's Big Dipper Sky technique. I've fought with the Seven Soul Palace a few times before. Seven Soul Palace? Who's after him? One figure after another rapidly chased after him. No one was willing to let Chu Hen take away the geocentric crystal under their eyes. In the fog Grand Canyon, a chilly wind blew. Apart from the pursuer behind him, the geocentric crystal had also attracted the pursuit of many demon spirits. Chu Hen left this place as fast as he could. From afar, it looked like a person dragging a small mountain as he moved forward. The scene was a little comical. Buzz, buzz. The geocentric crystal that was entangled by the 7 starlight chains continued to violently attack. However, the 5th level of the Big Dipper Sky technique, the Fecta chain, had an extremely powerful demon trapping and suppressive force. In a short period of time, it was still difficult for the 2 demon spirits inside to break free. As it moved, the geocentric crystal was undergoing a slight change. The color of the rock wall on the surface was gradually changing from dark reddish-gray to grayish-white. Moreover, if one were to observe it carefully, the rock wall even had cracks faintly appearing. This was a sign of the dissipation of the spiritual energy. After the energy within the geocentric crystal had been devoured, the remaining impurities were left behind. These 2 demon spirits are so fast. Chu Hen was secretly shocked. If the 2 demon spirits were to completely devour and refine this geocentric crystal, their strength would definitely soar again. At that time, he might not be able to do anything to them. Keep the geocentric crystal in your Violet Palace. It can block the leakage of spiritual energy. Otherwise, you'll be surrounded by the demon spirits here sooner or later. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow hurriedly reminded him. Chu Hen's eyebrows slightly wrinkled. He turned around and looked at the Earth's core crystal that was like a small palace. He said with a slightly weird expression, "To me, this is a challenge. I'm really worried that my Dantian will explode. Up to you. If you want to be surrounded and attacked by tens of thousands of demon spirits." The corner of Chu Hen's eyes twitched. Tens of thousands of demon spirits. Just thinking about it made him feel that the scene was spectacular and terrifying. He immediately clenched his teeth and quickly used the Sea of Heaven and Earth technique. In an instant, a surge of true essence quickly circulated within Chu Hen's body. Streams of light gathered in front of Chu Hen and formed a round ball of light. The ball of light rotated rapidly. The central area expanded and a vortex-shaped passage appeared. Buzz, buzz. Immediately after, the geocentric crystal was covered with a layer of white light patterns. Withdraw! Chu Hen secretly shouted, and a force of attraction surged out from his Zifu. The space where the crystal of the geocentric stone was located it started to distort, and a powerful force unceasingly started to compress it. After a few seconds, the crystal of the geocentric stone violently trembled for a bit, then turned into a wisp of shadow and flew towards Chu Hen. Whoosh! It immediately disappeared in front of Chu Hen and was absorbed into his violet palace. Buzz! As soon as the geocentric crystal entered his body, Chu Hen's body couldn't help but tremble. This feeling was like swallowing the food of 10 people. He almost exploded. Although Chu Hen's battle strength was comparable to the 4th or 5th level of the World Profound Realm, he was only at the 2nd level of the World Profound Realm. The extent of the Violet Palace's opening was still small. The power it could contain was also relatively limited. Previously, he had already contained the Immortal Conception Inkstone and the Great Tao Divine Stone. Now, with this geocentric crystal, he was almost at his limit. Fortunately, he could still bear it. After a short period of discomfort, his body gradually relaxed. However, after such a delay, the group of people chasing behind him also arrived. Chapter 771. If you don't want to die, then hand it over. Reckless little brat, daring to snatch food in front of this lord. Are you tired of living? When Chu Hen used the Sea Absorption Art to store the geocentric crystal into his true origin Violet Palace, the numerous pursuers behind him seized this opportunity to catch up. Everyone glared angrily at Chu Hen, and their gazes emitted ominous glints. As soon as the geocentric crystal entered his Violet Palace, it directly cut off the leakage of spirit energy. Sensing the numerous demon spirits in the distance that had lost their target, Chu Hen's mind slightly eased up. In comparison, in this mountain range area, the number of demon spirits exceeded tens of thousands. Once they attacked as a group, the danger they posed would be far higher than the human Wuxiao. Everyone, do you need something? Chu Hen had a leisurely expression as he looked at the crowd that swiftly surrounded him. What are you playing dumb for? A middle-aged man that held a long saber fiercely glared at Chen Shi, and the saber flame on his body rose as he raged like a lion. Give me the geocentric crystal, or else I'll chop you into pieces today. Don't waste your breath with this little thief. Let's kill him first, then we'll properly divide the geocentric crystal. You're right, let's do it. Swoosh, swoosh. Without saying too much nonsense, everyone burst out with a strong, killing intent. Each and every one of them held a sharp weapon in their hands and rushed towards Chu Hen. They surrounded him from all sides and had a kind of arrogance, as if they wanted to kill Chu Hen with a flurry of blades. When faced with over a dozen powerful figures that were like wild beasts, Chu Hen knew that it was useless to say anything more. If he wanted to successfully take away the geocentric crystal today, it probably wouldn't be so easy. Swoosh! Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as a powerful and majestic aura gushed out from his body. Along with the dazzling starlight, 7 thick and strong silver chains exploded out from behind him and flew out. Fecta chain. Along with Chu Hen's shout, the 7 stellar chains that were strong like WRMS gave rise to the might of the heavens that overturned rivers and seas. With Chu Hen at the center, it stirred the sky and instantly transformed into a ball of strong wind that was like a nebula vortex. Within the ball of light, the shadows of chains rapidly swept about, displaying the might of breaking through 1,000 caddies. Bang! Boom! As soon as the people surrounding Chu Hen got within 100 meters of him, they were directly swept away by the silver shadow locking strike. The terrifying impact force was comparable to the impact of a mountain. Caught off guard, everyone was sent flying away one after another. Their true essence shield shattered, and their blood surged up, causing them to vomit blood. Brat, are you really from the Seven Souls Palace? The middle-aged man with the long blade just now used the blade aura to protect himself. After blocking Chu Hen's attack, he shouted angrily in a deep voice. Seven Soul Palace? Hey! Chu Hen sneered, and a trace of extreme disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. Do you think I would associate myself with that group of shameless people? Shameless people? You're not from the Seven Souls Palace, but how do you know their Big Dipper Heavenly Star technique? What does that have to do with you? Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, 2 of the chains broke through the air and swept towards the middle-aged man with dazzling starlight like a wild dragon that instantly emerged from the sea. 1 from the front and 1 from the back, 1 from the left and one from the right. The latter's expression changed greatly. The strength of Chu Hen's strength far surpassed his imagination. Caught off guard, the two iron chains firmly smashed onto the other party's chest, fiercely sweeping against it. Bang! A ball of chaotic light splashed out, and the middle-aged man's bones instantly shattered. His internal organs shifted, and the aura he emitted was sharply reduced. You? The middle-aged man was furious and flustered. But before he could react, dozens of cold demon spirits appeared out of nowhere. All the demon spirits were like evil creatures that had smelled blood. They swarmed up and surrounded the middle-aged man. Arg! Miserable screams mixed with the sound of flesh being torn and bitten. In the blink of an eye, the middle-aged man's figure was drowned in the group of demon spirits. Chu Hen's eyes slightly narrowed. Anything that had a strong spiritual energy fluctuation could become the target of the demon spirit's attack. If he was the slightest bit careless, they would take the opportunity to attack. This was definitely not a place to stay for long. Whoever dares to follow me will die, Chu Hen barked. His figure immediately moved, and he turned around to leave. The thunderous momentum directly suppressed quite a few people in the surroundings. Just a moment ago, the strength that Chu Hen displayed caused fear to grow in their hearts. The most important point was still the countless demon spirits that were hiding nearby, ready to make a move. However, not long after Chu Hen turned around, a shocking sword light that was more than 100 feet suddenly descended from the sky. Like a rainbow piercing through the sky, it intercepted a mountain in front of Chu Hen. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening, thunderous sound, the mighty sword Qi spread out in all directions like a blooming flower. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Rocks flew everywhere, and the sky was filled with gravel that smashed towards Chu Hen. The fierce wind danced wantonly. Chu Hen clenched his fists and looked back at the sky behind him. He saw a young man and a woman standing proudly in the void. Both of them were dressed very luxuriously. At first glance, it was obvious that they were not ordinary people. The sword in a man's hand had been unsheathed, and it was shining with illusory golden light. His indifferent eyes revealed a hint of frivolity. "You want to leave just like that?" the man said lightly. A hint of caution surged between Chu Hen's brows. These two people's realms were higher than his. The man had probably reached the 5th level of the Earth Profound Realm, and the woman was at least at the 4th level. If it was just one person, Chu Hen would not be afraid. But now that he was facing two people, it was inevitable that he would feel a lot of pressure, especially when there were so many Orioles hiding in the dark nearby. "What do you want?" Chu Hen replied without batting an eyelid. You took our things, and you're asking us what we want? What a joke." The one who spoke was the woman. Although the woman could not be considered beautiful, she had the noble temperament of a noble's daughter. However, her disdainful tone made Chu Hen feel slightly unhappy. "Your things?" Chu Hen replied with a sneer. "I seem to be the one who got it first, right? If you want it, we can discuss it. I can share some with you." In this kind of situation, Chu Hen first planned to probe the two people's strength before deciding on a countermeasure. However, towards Chu Hen's discussion, the two people did not appreciate it at all. The woman coldly replied, "Ignorant thing, don't you know that the spear formed by the demon spirit is the treasure that our Heaven Dynasty's ruler bestowed to the North Field King, Su Chung, the dripping divine dragon spine spear?" What? As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the people hiding in the distance changed. They were secretly shocked, and their eyes were filled with respect and fear. Heaven Dynasty, North Field King, Su Chung, dripping divine dragon spine spear. When Chu Hen heard the words Heaven Dynasty, he was slightly shocked and couldn't help but frown. Before coming to the ancient desolate Heaven Domain, Dan Jun, Hua Shui, and the others had given Chu Hen a simple introduction of some of the more famous high-class forces and sects in the victorious East State. Especially regarding the top 10 sects and clans, they had solemnly explained it to Chu Hen. Heaven Dynasty was one of the top 10 forces in the victorious East State. It was also the only country that was in the top 10. The region of a province was vast, and there were tens of thousands of countries. Since ancient times, it had always been the sects that were more important than the country. After all, the imperial power of a dynasty was more involved in worldly matters. However, this Tiantong Empire was an exception. Aside from the fact that the imperial power dominated a region, its overall strength was something that countless people could only look up to. As for the so-called Northfield King, Su Cheng, he was also a top figure in Heaven Dynasty. However, there were only rumors about him in the outside world. This was because 1,000 years ago, when the ancient desolate Heaven Domain opened, Su Cheng had entered the ancient desolate Heaven Domain. However, since then, he had never returned. Even though he was surprised, Chu Hen's face did not reveal too much of a flustered expression. "I'm sorry, I really didn't know before." Chu Hen spread his hands and shrugged. The man slightly raised his eyelids and said indifferently, "Give me the dripping divine dragon spine spear." Chu Hen sniffled and said, "I also want to return it to you, but the dripping divine dragon spine spear has already fused with the earth core crystal." So, Chu Hen originally wanted to say that he would return it after the dripping divine dragon spine spear and the earth core crystal were separated. However, before he could finish, the man directly interrupted him. "So, hand over the earth core crystal as well." His cold tone did not contain the slightest bit of resistance. His overbearing gaze was as sharp as a sword. The appearance of this scene also caused the surrounding people to give up on the idea of fighting for the earth core crystal. Even the people from Heaven Dynasty had come, so the result could be imagined. As for Chu Hen, in the eyes of the crowd, it was nothing more than a waste of effort. He had deliberately waited for this moment, and now he still had to obediently submit. Speaking of which, I actually have a question that I hope the two of you can answer. You said that the spear is the dripping divine dragon spine spear. Then may I ask, what is that silver blade? Chu Hen's sudden question caused the young man and woman to be slightly surprised. The two of them looked at each other, and the young woman indifferently said, "There's no harm in telling you. That blade is called the Heaven's Blade, and it is the weapon of the Conquering Cloud's three-army commander, Bailey Chi." Conquering Cloud? Heaven's Blade? Chu Hen's eyes brightened. The Conquering Cloud Nation was also a top-tier dynasty in the Eastern Victory Province. Even though there was a large gap between the Conquering Cloud Nation and the Heaven Unified Dynasty, behind the Conquering Cloud Nation was the Heavenly Bamboo Peak. The Heavenly Bamboo Peak was also one of the top 10 first-rate sects in the Eastern Victory State. In other words, even though the imperial power of the Conquering Cloud Nation was far from the Heaven Dynasty, if they would really fight, the Conquering Cloud Nation would not be afraid of the other party. Thinking up to here, Chu Hen and the people nearby couldn't help but sort out their thoughts. It turned out that 1,000 years ago, the last time the ancient desolate Heaven region opened, Heaven Dynasty's North Guardian King Su Cheng and the three-army commander of the Conquering Cloud Nation Bailey Chi met in this great canyon. Afterwards, the two armies fought for days and nights. In the end, both sides suffered great losses, and both sides were destroyed. Su Cheng and Bailey Chi were both first-rate experts in the Eastern Victory State back then. After they died, a strand of remnant will turn into a demon spirit body. Relying on the great power they had when they were alive, the demon spirit body they turned into after death was far stronger than other demon spirit bodies. In addition, they were attached to the treasure's dripping God Spear and Heaven's Blade. Their heroic souls were not extinguished, and they commanded the departed soul, demon, spirit body. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 years had passed. The two great enemies fought each other when they were alive, and even after becoming ghost heroes, they still stubbornly resisted each other. This was also why the demon spirit bodies that were fighting before were all wearing armor, like soldiers of the three armies. "Are you done asking?" The man calmly said. "Then bring all the things over." Everything seemed to be as it should be. However, something unexpected happened. Chu Hen's eyes were resolute, and he unhesitatingly spat out a word. Chapter 772. "No!" A firm and resolute word came out of Chu Hen's mouth. He looked at the young man and woman from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty without a trace of fear on his face. The two of them were clearly surprised by Chu Hen's reply. The young man sneered. "I'll give you one more chance." "Say it again." "Buzz," Traces of cold light blossomed from the long sword in his hand. A cold wave of air rushed towards Shu Hen. In the dark canyon, the cold wind rustled. In the distance, all kinds of demon spirits danced chaotically. However, they were forced back by the aura emitted from the young man's body. The young woman with a noble temperament slightly raised her head and looked at Shu Hen with a condescending attitude. I see that you have such a cultivation at such a young age. It would be a pity to kill you. If you don't want to die, then obediently hand over the draining god spear and the geocentric crystal. Otherwise, there will be another demon spirit here today. Although her words were gentle, they were clearly threatening. However, Shu Hen didn't care. He indifferently replied, "Just as the two of you said, the geocentric crystal contains not only the draining god spear, but also the heaven's blade of the conquering clouds, 3 armies, Bailey Chi. Moreover, I was the one who snatched the geocentric crystal first. If you want to take it all away, isn't that too so?" The young man coldly interrupted. "So, I can return the draining god spear to you. However, I want the other 2 items," Shu Hen said in a powerful voice. After all, the Heaven Imperial Dynasty was one of the top 10 first-rate forces in the Eastern Victory State. In terms of fear, Shu Hen definitely had. However, if the other party wanted to take away all 3 items, Shu Hen would definitely not agree. Stubborn. The young woman frowned. A trace of coldness flashed in her eyes. She sneered at the man beside her. "Senior brother Xian Gu, it seems like there's no need to say any more." "That's exactly what I was thinking." The corners of the man called Xian Gu's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. Without further ado, he immediately raised his sword and charged towards Shu Hen. "I'm sorry to inform you that your trip to the ancient desolate heaven domain has come to an end." Buzz! Xian Gu's sword aura rose abruptly as he brandished his sword. Strong gales that could topple mountains and overturn seas howled in all directions, causing the surrounding space to tremble. A sword aura that resembled a swimming dragon shot out from behind him, transforming into a sword rainbow that shot straight towards Shu Hen. The sword aura was astonishing, as if it was a rainbow in the sky. "Die!" Xian Gu shouted in a stern voice. Shu Hen's pupils constricted slightly. Before he could even make a move, the powerful sword rainbow Great Tao had already rushed in front of him. Bang! The violent turbulence instantly exploded in the sky. Tens of thousands of light shadows bloomed in the void, and the fireworks like sword patterns shot in all directions. The power of the sword caused the sky to darken. The experts who were hiding in the dark were secretly shocked, and their expressions changed. As expected of someone from the Heavenly Imperial Dynasty, his cultivation is actually so strong. That reckless thief doesn't even have time to regret now. Witnessing the scene before them, the surrounding people suddenly gave up on the idea of obtaining the geocentric crystal. Xian Gu's sword shocked everyone, and a hint of arrogance appeared on his face. You can't even take a single sword from me, and you still dare to negotiate with me." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a sudden whooshing sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Everyone's heart trembled slightly. They saw a beam of silver light rapidly traversing through the sky, full of sword radiance, and immediately flew to the area above Xian Gu. Chi! In the next instant, endless black lightning burst out from Shu Hen's body like a 3-dimensional net of light. He extended both of his palms, and the unending stream of dark lightning power rapidly gathered together. In an instant, it formed an extremely dense lightning pillar. The berserk energy ripple was comparable to the cry of 1,000 birds, causing people's scalps to go numb. "What?" Xian Gu slightly frowned, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He originally thought that the destructive power of the sword just now would seriously injure Shu Hen even if he didn't die. He didn't expect that not only was the opponent fine, but he was also able to counterattack so quickly. It was really surprising. Thunder slash. Clang. The thunder roared, and it was ear-piercing. In an instant, a huge lightning pillar that exceeded 100 zhang descended from the sky with the power to destroy mountains and rivers, and it fiercely struck down towards Xangu below. Too weak, Xangu shouted coldly. He struck out with his sword, and a dazzling golden sword beam shot out like an aurora, colliding head-on with the lightning beam. Rumble! The two collided, and the void exploded. It was earth-shattering. The lightning and sword radiance wantonly collided and splashed everywhere. A powerful and piercingly cold gale spread across the heaven and earth, and the mighty shockwaves continuously swept in all directions, washing away the thick fog in the sky. The expression of the young woman from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty, who was with Xangu, slightly changed. True Yuan immediately rose from her body, and a tassel-like light flew out. What? Are you going to bully me with numbers? Chu Hen ridiculed. Xangu's eyes turned cold, and a powerful sword energy forced back the scattered lightning runes. He then said, Junior apprentice sister by Nian, there is no need for you to do anything. I alone am enough to kill him. Even so, the young woman named by Nian did not have any intention of stopping. Junior apprentice brother Xangu, this is not a place to stay for long. It's better to end this quickly. Hearing this, Xangu couldn't help but tighten his grip on the sword in his hand. He immediately nodded and erupted with a far stronger aura than before. He waved his sword and attacked Chu Hen. And Chu Hen naturally understood the other meaning behind the words, not a place to stay for long. Since the Heaven Imperial Dynasty had come here to retrieve the dripping god spear, then it was very likely that the experts from the country of Conquering Cloud would also come to retrieve the TNI blade. At that time, the situation would become even more chaotic. It seemed that he couldn't fight for too long. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Xangu's attack arrived. His sharp sword was surrounded by flowing light runes, and the tip of the sword went straight for Chu Hen's throat. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched, and he turned to the side, nimbly dodging the attack. Then, with a backhand slap, a vast amount of Zhen Yuan gathered at the center of his palm, forming a raging palm energy. Xangu did not dare to underestimate his opponent too much, withdrawing his sword and striking out with his palm, clashing with Chu Hen's palm energy. Bang! The two palms collided, and a wave of qi overflowed. The surging true essence of the two overlapped and fiercely collided. Xangu's realm was higher than Chu Hen's, so the density of his true essence directly suppressed Chu Hen. But immediately after, Chu Hen's palms suddenly blossomed with a dazzling starlight. Before Xangu could react, he suddenly felt a monstrous power surging along Chu Hen's arm like an undercurrent in the deep sea. Bang! Xangu only felt his arm go numb, and he was directly knocked back by Chu Hen's power. As he flew back, the corner of Xangu's eyes slightly narrowed. He saw that in the center of Chu Hen's left palm, there were a few bright and beautiful specks of light. Those specks of light arranged themselves into a pattern of the Big Dipper, looking very strange. Boom! At the same time, before Chu Hen could launch another round of attacks, the young woman named by Nian had already burst out with an even more powerful aura. Her 10 fingers quickly pinched together to form a seal, and in an instant, a white curtain of light flew out from behind her. These light curtains were like thousands of silks, satin, and brocade. Pieces of white cloth quickly flew towards Chu Hen. They covered the sky and the earth, pierced through the blue dome of heaven, and revolved around Chu Hen in the form of 6 entanglements. As they revolved, the distance between each piece of white cloth rapidly shrank. In just an instant, the white curtain of light transformed into a birdcage that was dozens of meters wide. In just an instant, Chu Hen had become a bird in the cage. Through the white curtain of light, one could faintly see Chu Hen's figure trapped inside. A hint of disdain could be seen in by Nian's eyes as she looked at the huge birdcage that hovered in the sky. Don't even think about coming out after entering my saint cage. Senior brother Xangu, take this opportunity, I know. Xangu laughed coldly as surging true origin energy flowed into the longsword in his hand like tide water. If you don't die after receiving this strike of mine, then Xangu, will write my name backwards. An extremely powerful aura surged in the sky. It was obvious that Xiangu planned to use all his strength to kill Chu Hen with this strike. Chu Hen, who was trapped in the Saint Cage, also clearly felt the extremely threatening power outside. Immediately, he flashed to the wall behind the Saint Cage. Following that, a dazzling silver saint radiance blossomed from within. Bai Nian smiled disdainfully as he sensed the energy fluctuation released by Chu Hen. Don't waste your time. With your cultivation base, you'll never be able to break it. Boom! Before he could finish speaking, Bai Nian's voice came to an abrupt halt. It was replaced by a deafening explosion. Before anyone could react, a dazzling silver pillar of light pierced through the wall behind the huge cage like a sword piercing through the clouds. In the next moment, Chu Hen turned into a wisp of shadow and flew out of the hole in the wall, instantly disappearing into the horizon ahead. What? How's this possible? Bai Nian was surprised. He clenched his fists tightly. This was really a slap in the face. Xiangu, who was preparing his killing move, was stunned as well. Others might not know, but he knew Bai Nian's Saint Cage confinement killing tactic was not something that could be easily defeated. Who was that person? An ordinary disciple from an ordinary sect would not have such ability. After a brief moment of surprise, Xiangu and Bai Nian's faces turned cold again. Chase after him. He can't escape. Whoosh. Chapter 773. The vast and boundless canyon was like a gentle mountain, incomparably mysterious. At this moment, Chu Hen was moving through the canyon at an extremely fast speed. The cold wind blew against his face, causing his clothes to flutter. His deep eyes were like the stars in the sky. We need to shake them off quickly. I feel a few powerful auras coming from the southwest direction. The sacred winged heavenly flame bird suddenly warned. Chu Hen frowned slightly. The people from the country of Conquering Cloud had arrived so quickly? Or was it someone else? He had only been in the ancient desolate Heaven domain for a few days, and the experts from the Heaven dynasty and the country of Conquering Cloud had already found this place. From the looks of it, the dripping god spear and the Tianai saber were not ordinary items. One was the weapon of the North Garrison King, Su Cheng, and the other was the saber of the Commander-in-Chief, Bailey Qi. These two people were famous figures in the victorious East State 1,000 years ago. Unfortunately, these two profound sky realm experts were forever buried in the ancient desolate Heaven domain. Whoosh! Very quickly, Chu Hen crossed another 2 or 3 mountains. Although he had already raised his speed to the maximum, the distance between the two people was getting shorter and shorter. Chu Hen secretly shook his head. If this continued, they would catch up sooner or later. After all, the two people's cultivation was 2 or 3 levels higher than his, and the density of their true origin energy was much higher than his. If he could not shake them off in a short period of time, the one at a disadvantage would still be Chu Hen. Awoo! Suddenly, a loud wolf's howl pierced through the clouds and resounded through the canyon. On the cliff in front of them, there was a demonic wolf with blue and white fur proudly standing there. The demonic wolf stood proudly at the peak of the mountain. Its body was huge, more than 100 meters wide. Its body was also wrapped in a strange thorny armor. From afar, it looked like it was wearing a layer of hedgehog armor. It was invincible and had a peerless aura. The other party emitted a strong aura of death. Coupled with its blood-red eyes, it was easy to determine that this demon wolf was not a real demon beast, but a demon spirit. Even though it was a demonic spirit without any intelligence, this demonic wolf did not look like someone to be trifled with. However, Chu Hen's eyes suddenly lit up. We meet again. When Chu Hen came to this Grand Canyon previously, he had also encountered this demon wolf. But at that time, he did not disturb or provoke the other party. Instead, he walked around them. Now that he saw the other party, Chu Hen immediately revealed a sinister smile. Idiot, do you think you can escape? At the same time, Heaven Unified Dynasty's Xiangu and Bai Nian were already several hundred meters behind them. Xiangu brandished his long sword, and several swift and fierce sword sheaths streaked across the sky like a blade piercing through the air towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen ignored it. He dodged a few times in the air, but he drew a bright arc in the air, changing the direction of his movement, and swept towards the other side. Seeing this, Xiangu and Bai Nian could not help but look at each other. The two of them naturally saw the giant wolf demon spirit at the top of the cliff in front of them. Was this Chu Hen an idiot? To actually run in that direction? Was he not afraid of being attacked from both front and back? Senior brother Xiangu, be careful. Don't let this little thief play any tricks, Bai Nian said in a low voice. Xiangu coldly smiled. Humph, you think too highly of him. I will let him know what it means to seek his own death. Buzz. An astonishing surging aura gushed out from the sharp sword in Xiangu's hand, and circles of intertwining sword runes covered the body of the sword. After changing the direction of his movement, Chu Hen was heading towards the giant wolf demon spirit at the top of the cliff. Seeing that Chu Hen was getting closer and closer, the demon wolf's scarlet eyes clearly flashed with a cold aura of death. It looked like a ferocious creature from hell, abnormally sinister and terrifying. Oh! In the next instant, the demon wolf let out a high-pitched roar, and its pair of skeletal hind legs kicked hard, shooting out like a stream of light and pouncing towards Chu Hen with a menacing aura. In front of him was the life-seizing demon spirit, and behind him was a powerful pursuer. Chu Hen successfully fell into a state of being attacked from both front and back. Behind him, Xiangu disdainfully sneered, "You really are an idiot. Die!" Swish! As his voice fell, Xiangu slashed out with his sword, and a powerful sword aura surged forward with crushing momentum. Two golden sword auras that were more than 100 feet long intersected to form a cross, dragging a huge wave of light and shadow, and slashed towards Chu Hen at full speed. The demon wolf's giant claw and the sharp sword aura, the two peerlessly powerful attacks were like two mountains' pincer attacking one another. Chu Hen was like a bird that had fallen into the middle. What awaited him seemed to be destruction. However, at this critical moment, a strange energy fluctuation emitted from Chu Hen's body. Buzz, buzz. Chu Hen completely ignored the powerful fatal sword aura behind him, and his pair of deep eyes stared at the demon wolf that was pouncing towards him. His arms moved like a willow, holding the yang mystic chi in his left hand and the yin mystic chi in his right hand. Then, Chu Hen put his palms together, and the Tai Chi yin and yang chi merged and rotated, forming an illusory yin-yang diagram in the center of his palms. In an instant, the space where Chu Hen and the demon wolf were in immediately underwent a strange change. At the same time, the surrounding space also began to distort. It was both real and fake, as if they had fallen into an illusion. There seemed to be an illusion of the rotation of heaven and earth, and all things shifting. Greater teleportation technique. When the distance between Chu Hen and the demon wolf was less than 10 meters, Chu Hen shouted, "Whoosh!" In the next instant, Chu Hen and the demon wolf were like two black and white dots in the yin-yang diagram. Taking advantage of the flow, the positions of the two people immediately changed. In just the blink of an eye, the distorted space immediately returned to normal, and the area where Chu Hen and the demon wolf were instantly changed. Chu Hen, who was sandwiched between the two a second ago, suddenly became the giant wolf demon spirit body. What? Bai Nian and Xiangu, who were chasing from behind, were stunned. Neither of them expected that Chu Hen would have such a strange secret technique. In the next second, the two intersecting sword auras released by Xiangu directly swept up a terrifying impact and slashed the demon wolf's body. Boom! Sword aura splashed everywhere, and heaven and earth were sent flying. Chaotic light and shadows flew in all directions, and the huge body of the giant wolf demon spirit body shook violently. Because the other party was not a physical creature, the sword did not produce a scene of flesh and blood splattering, but its huge skeletal body became a lot more illusory. Roar! Immediately after, the giant wolf demon spirit body let out a monstrous roar. The sudden sword attack caused it to immediately turn around and aim its spearhead at Gu and Bai Nian. Without saying a word, it waved its sharp bone claws, sweeping up endless ferocious aura of death, and pounced towards Gu. "Bastard!" Gu shouted angrily. "You've been tricked." However, Gu's words were obviously superfluous. Demon spirits had low intelligence, and they only reacted on instinct. Instinct told it that the one who attacked it was Gu, so it directly attacked the latter. Bang! The sword and claws clashed, and sparks flew everywhere. Gu frowned. This demon spirit body was quite powerful. He shouted in a deep voice, "You go after that little thief, I'll catch up soon." "Okay." Bai Nian did not hesitate. He bypassed the battle in front of him and continued to chase after Chu Hen. "Cunning little thief." Bai Nian cursed in his heart as he chased after Chu Hen's aura above the Great Canyon. Behind him, Gu and the giant wolf demon spirit body had a disagreement, and an intense battle broke out. The collision of strength and the howl of the giant wolf demon spirit body caused the entire mountain range to fall into violent chaos. As the fog in front of them became thinner and the number of demon spirits they encountered decreased, Bai Nian knew that they had reached the edge of the Great Canyon. Even so, Bai Nian's speed continued to increase. No matter what, he could not let Chu Hen go like this. However, at this moment, rumble, a mountain peak in the area in front of them suddenly exploded from the middle. A surge of surging aura came without any warning. Not good. Bai Nian's expression changed drastically. Before he could react, he saw a ray of sword light fly out from the mountain peak and attack him. This ray of sword light was actually formed from a few hundred piercingly cold strands of sword chi, and it possessed a vast impetus and was filled with the aura of slaughter. In a hurry, Bai Nian could only form a defensive barrier in front of him. Boom! Dozens of white cloths swept out from behind her, forming a solid light barrier in front of her. Bang, bang, bang. The strands of sword chi were like rain striking the banana leaves, constantly attacking the barrier of light. In the blink of an eye, the barrier of light was already riddled with holes. After blocking nearly 200 sword chi in a row, the light barrier finally collapsed, and the rain of sword chi swept down towards Bai Nian. Bai Nian's pupils violently shrank, and a great panic appeared on his face. Hiss! The sharp sword chi continuously passed through his body, and blood splattered everywhere. Streaks of blood appeared on Bai Nian's skin. Ah! Bai Nian hurriedly retreated and quickly took out a pill and put it into his mouth. Just when she thought that Chu Hen was going to rush out and attack again, a light figure flew towards the ridge in the distance. "I'll spare your life today, and the draining divine dragon's pine spear belongs to me. If you continue to pester me in the future, I won't show any mercy." A thunderous voice reverberated in everyone's ears. Looking at Chu Hen's disappearing figure, Bai Nian clenched her trembling hands. Her expression was cold, and her heart was palpitating. Even though her cultivation was 2 levels higher than Chu Hen's, it didn't seem difficult for him to take her life. Whoosh! At this moment, Gu, who was in the rear area, also caught up. Compared to before, Gu's body was clearly more vicious, and the veins on his forehead were faintly bulging. "Where is he?" Gu asked in a deep voice. Bai Nian gritted her teeth and shook her head. "He's already gone. You actually couldn't hold him back?" Gu was a little angry, but when he saw that the other party was covered in wounds and blood, his expression couldn't help but become even more gloomy as he fiercely reprimanded. "No one can escape from me." Gu's eyes. He finally got rid of those two. Through the thin fog and dense forest, Chu Hen easily traversed through the forest. "I really have to thank little Yao this time." A faint smile appeared on the corner of Chu Hen's mouth. The greater teleportation technique that he had just used was one of the martial arts secret techniques that Yi Yao had taught Chu Hen. The greatest feature of this secret technique was that it could change one's position. Back in Shanghai City, when Yi Yao and Lu Chuanfeng of the Northern Qian Chamber of Commerce engaged in a chase, Yao had used this greater teleportation technique to fight for an opportunity to escape. It had to be said that this technique was very practical in many cases. Of course, Chu Hen had only mastered the greater teleportation technique, and his range of greater teleportation technique was far from Yao's. Only when the two of them were very close would Chu Hen be able to use this technique. If it was Yao, she would have been able to complete the greater teleportation technique when she was 1,000 meters away. However, this was already very satisfactory to Chu Hen. Chapter 774. There were undulating mountains, green mountains, and oases. The thin mist was like dense water vapor, lingering between the peaks and above the pond. After leaving the Grand Canyon, Chu Hen successfully got rid of Xiangu and Bai Nian from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty and headed toward the outer region at his fastest speed. As he got further away from the place of extreme negative energy, the number of demon spirits that Chu Hen encountered became fewer and fewer. After confirming that there was no one chasing after him, Chu Hen's figure moved, and he flashed towards an especially precipitous precipice. After searching for a while, Chu Hen found a hidden cave on the side of the precipice. The dark cave was faintly discernible under the shroud of mist, as if it was the dwelling place of some cave-type demon beasts. Whoosh! Without much hesitation, Chu Hen turned into a stream of light, shuttled through the mist, and flashed into the cave like a bolt of lightning. Soon, the environment of the cave appeared in Chu Hen's line of sight. Just as he thought, this was a demon beast's nest. The interior space was very large, and fallen bird feathers could be seen everywhere on the ground. It seemed that there was a falcon-type demon beast living here. However, at present, the owner of this nest did not seem to be at home. It was empty inside, and other than the uninvited guest, Chu Hen, there were no other living creatures. Of course, Chu Hen did not care about this. Immediately, he turned his hand and took out hundreds of high-grade crystal stones and scattered them around. The shining crystal stones were like water droplets that blended into the air and the ground, causing ripples to appear. Buzz, buzz. Immediately afterward, a dazzling glyph array was arranged. In the center of the glyph array, Chu Hen was shrouded in a soft golden light. His body became more and more illusory, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared. The aura that he emitted was also instantly cut off, and the entire cave became empty once again, as if the other party had never been here. Soon after, True Origin Violet Mansion space. Rumble. At this moment, Chu Hen's True Origin Violet Mansion could be said to have set off a lot of turbulence and chaos. Thunder rumbled, and chi waves covered the sky. The turbulent energy fluctuations were like raging waves that stirred up the wind and clouds. The world around them was chaotic, and only the central area was clear and bright. Mountains and rivers formed and gathered the many powerful forces that Chu Hen had mastered. Roar! Roar! The deafening roar of the ferocious creature caused Chu Hen's True Origin Violet Palace to tremble unceasingly. High up in the sky, a rock that was tens of meters tall floated in the air like an exquisite finger peak. At the same time, two extremely powerful energy waves were continuously released from the geocentric crystal. With the Earth core crystal as the center, the space within a radius of nearly 1,000 meters was faintly distorted. The Earth core crystal, which contained an enormous amount of energy, was constantly transforming. Sometimes it would spit out a strange black light, and sometimes it would emit a dazzling golden light, such frightening power as expected of the demon spirit transformed by two sky profound realm experts. Feeling the violent rhythm within the True Origin Violet Palace, Chu Hen was secretly shocked. This kind of feeling was like a ferocious beast locked in a cage, and the other party could break free at any time and struggle out of his True Origin Violet Palace. However, Chu Hen would not let this kind of situation happen. I'm the one who calls the shots here. Along with Chu Hen's silent shout, followed by a wave of thunderous rumbling sounds, only to see the ground of the mountain ridge below rapidly split open, and thick and heavy iron chains shot out explosively, like a mad dragon coming out of the sea straight into the sky. With a momentum of encircling from all sides, they directly and firmly entangled the Earth core crystal. Buzz, buzz, the entangled Earth core crystal emitted a dazzling light, resisting. To be precise, it was the resistance of the two demon spirits inside. Chu Hen sneered in his heart and said with a slightly frivolous smile, "No matter what, I spent so much effort to seize this Earth core crystal. I can't just let you guys take advantage of me." Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, an astonishing plundering power completely exploded out. The iron chains that wrapped around the geocentric crystal seemed to be connected to the blood vessels around the heart. With an extremely tyrannical and violent speed, it plundered the enormous energy contained within the geocentric crystal. The three sides divided it up, like tigers and wolves slaughtering each other. In the air, the Earth core crystal blossomed with a resplendent holy radiance, like a divine sun from the nine heavens. But this divine sun was firmly bound by more than 10 iron chains, and similarly, the two demon spirits that had fused into the Earth core crystal were also bound. Time passed by minute, second by second. The true origin violet palace of Chu Hen was filled with an extremely dense, large amount of spiritual energy. This abundant spiritual energy was like a spiritual fog floating in every corner of the violet palace. With the infusion of this spiritual energy, the hazy, chaotic area in the distance actually became clear bit by bit and gradually revealed the earth, the sky, the mountains, and rivers. After the true origin violet palace reached the earth profound realm, it could be said to be the space formed by the advancement of the Dantian's Qi Si. Not only was the true origin violet palace able to continuously produce true origin energy, it was also able to store external energy. The true origin violet palace was the boundless chaotic world, and along with the advancement of one's realm, this chaotic world that hadn't been divided into the heavens and the earth would unceasingly open up, giving birth to all sorts of flowers and plants in the future after the earth profound realm. When one stepped into the sky profound realm, one would be able to gather the energy of the sun, moon, and stars. At that time, it would be equivalent to having an independent world of one's own within one's body. The Earth core crystal was a treasure of the heavens and the earth, and it was even a material used to refine god weapons. The energy it contained was comparable to the boundless energy of a river, and under the nourishment of its spiritual energy, the space within the true origin violet palace was currently expanding in a subtle manner. Similarly, at the same time that Chu Hen felt the energy within his body becoming stronger, he was also able to feel the aura emitted by the dripping god spear and the karmic saber becoming sharper and sharper. In the blink of an eye, a few days quietly passed. Rumble. After a few days of peace, an unprecedented violent upheaval was suddenly ushered in. Within the true origin violet palace, the mountains swayed and the rivers surged. The distant chaotic space swiftly expanded and opened up at a speed that was visible to the naked eye, and the towering mountain ranges slowly rose up, and they were even more precipitous than before. The originally bare mountain ridge and ground actually started to grow numerous verdant and tender little grass. Numerous shrubs and vegetation seemed as if they were blown by the spring wind, and all of them temporarily revealed their tips instantly. Chu Hen's true origin violet palace was filled with exuberant vitality. Under the upheaval, the river of true origin surged magnificently. Waves surged into the sky, and a boundless great force swept out in all directions to charge into the sky. The powerful true origin energy ceaselessly multiplied explosively and enveloped the heavens and the earth. I've broken through. Traces of a bright light appeared in Chu Hen's heart. Awu! Roar! At the same time, the earth core crystal that was like a small hill in the sky above the nine heavens emitted waves of intense upheaval without end. In the area above the sky, waves of air surged into the sky, and dense dark clouds and nebulae covered the sky and covered the sun. Strong chilly winds whistled through the heavens and the earth, and the icy cold and ghastly aura of death caused the temperature within the true origin violet palace to ceaselessly plummet. Compared to before, the entire body of the Earth core crystal had undergone a huge change. The color and luster of its surface had changed from the initial dark gold to a grayish white, and it was covered with deep cracks. Gotcha! The cracks continued to increase, densely packed like the cracks on a dry riverbed. Oh, buzz, buzz! At this time, a dazzling golden light actually bloomed and shot out from the cracks. Looking from afar, it was like a sun hidden behind the clouds and mist, and an astonishing rhythm was brewing and growing from within. The space fluctuated rhythmically, and an increasingly strong aura spread out in all directions. Subsequently, a deafening boom. Sound shook the heavens and the earth, and the sky shook. The Earth core crystal that was as big as a palace actually exploded in the middle, and the vast and mighty shock wave mixed with the crushed stone dregs spread out to the heavens and the earth. Chu Hen's entire true origin violet palace shook along with it, and the blood in his body surged up, and even the flow of his blood was speeding up. What's this? Chu Hen's heart was endlessly startled. Amidst the fragments that filled the sky, a bright and dazzling ray of light appeared in the sky like a rainbow. That ray of light was a saber, shaped like a puchong leaf, with a silver blade that was perfectly straight like a sword and emitted a boundless sharpness. The Tianai saber, the weapon of Bailey Qi, the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies of Conquering Cloud. Roar! As soon as the Tianai saber appeared, the sky immediately shone with boundless holy light. Along with a monstrous, ferocious might, an awe-inspiring white, saber-toothed tiger with an aura that could shake mountains and rivers hung high in the sky like a star. This white, saber-toothed tiger's entire body was surrounded by holy patterns of light, and its body was well-built and perfect. When it opened its mouth, a pair of sharp fangs could be seen. Where's the draining spirit spear? Chu Hen was puzzled. Could it be that Bailey Qi's demonic spiritual body won and devoured the draining spirit spear of the Heavens Unified Dynasty's great general, Su Cheng? That shouldn't be the case. The strength of the two was about the same when they were alive. Bailey Qi shouldn't have one so easily. Roar! Just as Chu Hen was puzzled, something unexpected happened again. The Tianai saber suddenly swallowed and spat out a strange dark light. Accompanied by the distortion of space, the Tianai saber's blade actually took on a strange, twisting shape. The blade immediately extended and elongated, and a long spear immediately took shape. The sharp spearhead was long and narrow in the shape of a diamond. Connecting the spearhead and the body of the spear was a strange spine, like the spine of a dragon. It was very gorgeous and had an extraordinary aura. It was the draining spirit spear. Roar! In the next moment, the draining spirit spear set off a monstrous wave of air, causing the sky to darken and the earth to howl. Immediately after, the majestic saber-toothed tiger phantom in the sky immediately turned into a huge lizard phantom. This lizard beast was not only huge, but it also had a pair of wings on its back, and its entire body was covered in stone-like scales. It was like an ancient creature from ancient times. It raised its head and roared at the sky, causing Chu Hen's blood to boil. What was going on? Screech! Suddenly, a colorful sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow covered in multicolored light appeared in a corner of the Violet Palace. It let out a loud and clear cry and said excitedly, Chapter 775. What a great surprise! The Tianai saber and the draining god spear have fused together. The sacred wing heavenly flame bird's sudden words startled Chu Hen, and he asked in astonishment, Fused together? What's going on? This is a special characteristic of the crystal of the Earth's core. It's usually one of the main materials used to refine divine weapons. It's extremely effective in fusing various materials together. However, the Tianai blade and the dripping god spear were activated by the crystal of the Earth's core by a freak combination of factors, causing them to fuse together. The probability of this happening is extremely low. I didn't expect you to encounter it. Although the sacred wing heavenly flame bird's explanation was relatively detailed, Chu Hen had never come into contact with artifacts, so he was a little confused. However, he roughly understood that it was the geocentric crystal that had inadvertently allowed the two weapons to complete their fusion. But is it really a good thing for the two weapons to fuse into one? Chu Hen couldn't help but doubt. To be honest, when Chu Hen first saw the draining god spear and the Tianai saber in the great valley of the land of extreme negative energy, he was tempted. As his cultivation level increased, finding a suitable weapon was a problem. The sickle of death that he took from the man of the Fong clan was broken in the scuffle with the blood refining hall. However, the blue ran sword was not the most convenient weapon. In Chu Hen's opinion, the draining god dragon's pine spear could replace the frightening demon slayer spear, and the Tianai saber could replace the limitless tooth. This was what Chu Hen was thinking. How stupid are you? The sacred wing heavenly flame bird sneered in disdain. When the two weapons fuse into one, not only does the overall quality increase greatly, but they can also be switched at will. Wait, switched at will? Chu Hen's mind lit up. That's right. The sacred wing heavenly flame bird affirmed. After all, the two weapons are already finished products. Although the geocentric crystal fused them together, their properties are still independent and won't affect their own characteristics. Chu Hen only understood half of what he heard. Okay, I'm a little confused. Just tell me what I should do next. It's very simple. Wipe out the two demon spirits attached to the draining god spear and the Tianai saber. Then, this item will be yours. Roar, roar. A chaotic and powerful aura filled Chu Hen's entire Jinfu. In the sky above the highest heavens, the dripping god spear and the Tianai saber were constantly switching back and forth. One moment, it was like a silver rainbow. The next moment, it was like a dark flame. The majestic silhouette of the saber-toothed tiger and the domineering and dark ancient lizard dragon also appeared. Competing in life, competing in death. A wisp of remnant thought was unforgiving. Gusts of chilly wind enveloped the world as the draining spirit spear and the heavenly karma saber collided back and forth, constantly erupting with intense shockwaves. At this moment, Chu Hen also began to prepare for the next mission. Buzz, buzz. Surging true essence surged out from the source of energy below, and it transformed into a huge golden palm of true essence that stretched towards the draining god spear. However, just when the palm was about to grab the draining god spear, the draining god spear transformed into a strand of flowing light and vanished on the spot. It was like a shooting star that pierced through the heavenly river, and it flashed directly towards a chaotic world. Rumble. In an instant, the draining god spear directly struck the hazy, chaotic area ahead, and it was earth-shattering. The sky shook, and the entire Jinfu felt as if it was being struck by a mountain and river. Even Chu Hen's body shook along with it. You still want to escape? Chu Hen couldn't help but feel slightly amused. It looked like the two demon spirits didn't intend to submit just like that. The draining god spear blossomed with a dazzling silver light when it failed to break through, and then it transformed into the Tianai saber. Buzz, buzz. The peerlessly imposing aura of the saber erupted, and the Tianai saber glowed brightly as it instantly transformed into a 1,000-meter wide saber light. Swish! As the silver blade slashed down, it was as if it was splitting the heavens and earth apart as it ruthlessly slashed at the mountain ridge below. Rumble. Rubble crumbled as the precipitous mountain ridge was directly split apart. In an instant, a 10,000-foot-long natural chasm appeared on the ground. What a powerful force! Chu Hen was shocked once again. No wonder the people of the Heaven Dynasty and the country of Conquering Cloud didn't forget these two weapons even after 1,000 years. The draining god spear and the Tianai saber were really not ordinary items. There was no need to doubt that they were on the Saint Artifact list, and they might even be very high up. He couldn't let them mess around, or else his Jinfu might really be turned upside down. Boom! Bang! For a moment, the draining god spear and the Tianai saber rampaged in Chu Hen's Jinfu, and the mountains were flattened, and the sky turned dark. Fortunately, Chu Hen's cultivation had just made a breakthrough, or else his Junfu of the second order of the Earth profound realm wouldn't be able to withstand their powerful force. And the stronger the power displayed by these two weapons, the more surprised Chu Hen was. That's enough. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely powerful aura suddenly swept over from one side of the sky. On the other side, a 30 kilometers tall and powerful figure seemed like a fiend god that controlled this expanse of the heavens and the earth. As soon as the energy of chaos appeared, the heavens and the earth dimmed. After that, the black figure stretched out his arms, causing waves of energy to surge while space pulsated. Strands of black light shot out and swept towards the Karma Blade. And on the other side, a pair of purple demonic eyes that floated in the sky also shone brightly, as if the eyes of a demonic god were flickering with a demonic purple light, like a purple sun illuminating the sky. Buzz, buzz. Under the suppression of the chaotic force and the demonic eyes, the TNI saber couldn't move, but it wasn't willing to give up just like that. Roar! Then, along with a monstrous silver light, a white saber-toothed tiger appeared in the sky with the momentum of a roaring mountain and river. Immediately after, the TNI saber transformed into the draining god spear. Under the cover of the cold wind, the winged ancient lizard dragon appeared in the sky. The saber-toothed tiger and the ancient lizard dragon appeared at the same time, one on the left and one on the right. They roared at the sky and displayed their ferocious might, resisting the suppression of the chaotic force and the demonic eyes. Then, the draining god spear released a dense black light and a dazzling silver radiance. The intertwining light beams were like streamers, constantly revolving. Then, two figures that emitted a dense aura of death appeared in the sky, facing each other. These two figures were wearing general armors, displaying a domineering aura. Under the armors were malevolent skeletons. Although these two demonic spirits looked terrifying, Chu Hen could still feel the heroic spirit from them. One was the North vanquishing Duke of the Heaven Unified Dynasty, Great General Su Chung. The other was the Commander-in-Chief of the three armies of the state of Conquering Cloud, General Bailey Chi. The two were outstanding heroes in life, and they still had extraordinary bearings in death. Looking at the scene in front of him, Chu Hen had an indescribable feeling of regret. After a brief moment of hesitation, Chu Hen actually withdrew his power, causing the black light and the purple wave to quickly recede. Then, Chu Hen's thunderous momentum spread out and reverberated in the violet palace of true essence. Seniors, Qing Shan has passed away. Things remain the same, but people have changed. In life, you were an outstanding hero, and in death, you became a heroic spirit. Why can't you let go of the last obsession in your heart? I hope that you two seniors can let go of your obsession. This junior, Chu Hen, will definitely reappear in the draining god spear, and the TNI saber's edge reincarnate. Reincarnate. Buzz. As soon as Chu Hen's voice fell, the two skeleton army souls seemed to be moved. Their scarlet eyes slowly opened and looked at each other. After fighting for a lifetime, perhaps it was time to end it. The saber is given to the fated. The heavenly karma still exists. The spear is given to the future. The draining god shocks the heavens. A heavy sound rang in Chu Hen's mind, and shock immediately filled his heart. These two demon spirits actually had consciousness. Demon spirits did not have wisdom, but things in the world were not completely absolute. Immediately afterward, the bodies of the two army souls began to become transparent and transformed into endless light spots floating in the sky, like spirit butterflies leading to another world, slowly disappearing without a trace. The three armies can seize the commander. The heavens rule the world. 100 cities kill the enemy king. 1,000 autumns. Two distant voices reverberated in Chu Hen's violet palace of true essence, like dust floating between heaven and earth, spreading far away, and finally disappeared in silence. The phantoms of the saber-toothed tiger and the ancient lizard dragon, floating in the sky, also slowly dissipated and hid. In the end, Only a sharp spear remained there, with a dark light lingering around it, and the dragon bone in the middle had a special sharpness. Chu Hen was lost for a long time. Chapter 776. True Essence Violet Palace, bright and clear, forming a world of its own. Compared to before, Chu Hen's True Essence Violet Palace had undergone a complete transformation. Not only had its space expanded, but it had also grown a patch of green vegetation. It was even more exuberant than before. As his cultivation continued to increase, his True Essence Violet Palace would gradually become a brand new small world. At this moment, there was a strange white jade inkstone placed at the peak of a magnificent mountain. This inkstone was like a large ice jade bed, and it emitted a dense aura. With this white jade inkstone as the center, cracks that looked like spirit vines spread in all directions. If one looked down from above, this inkstone was like a strange heart of the earth, continuously supplying spiritual energy to Chu Hen's True Essence Violet Palace. Immortal Soul Nurturing Inkstone. Just like the geocentric crystal, it was also a treasure of heaven and earth used to forge divine weapons. This was the treasure that Chu Hen had obtained from the underwater pool after the fierce battle between the evil beast of death and the ghost octopus. The Immortal Soul Nurturing Inkstone had the property of storing spiritual energy in the world. If placed in his True Essence Violet Palace, it could constantly absorb spiritual energy from the outside world for Chu Hen. It was equivalent to being in a meditative state at all times. Buzz buzz. A powerful force was released, and in the middle of the Immortal Soul Nurturing Inkstone, there was a sharp and gorgeous cold spear. The tip of the spear was pointed straight down, about 3 inches into the spirit inkstone. With the tip of the dripping god spear as the center, a complicated cobweb-like pattern extended towards the surface of the spirit inkstone. Circles of flowing, ripple-like beams of light lingered around the dripping god spear like ribbons of light. Looking from afar, the spear exuded a fierce and powerful aura, like a god. Then, with a thought from Chu Hen, a strange energy rhythm spread between heaven and earth. Boom! In a split second, the draining spirit spear, which was surrounded by a dark light, emitted waves of resplendent golden light. The body of the spear distorted, like a floating water column, and then a perfectly straight silver blade replaced its original position. Although the T&I saber did not look gorgeous, it had an unconcealable sharpness to it. His simplicity revealed the might to annihilate an army of 10,000. Good spear, good saber. Chu Hen could not help but sigh inwardly as he sensed the aura emanating from the two weapons. The quality of the draining god spear and the T&I saber was much higher than he had imagined. Even a blue Rand sword might not be able to compete with them. That's about it. Let's leave this thing here to refine. The saintly winged heavenly flame sparrow's voice rang out. Along with the dazzling multicolored light that appeared in the sky, a divine bird that looked down on all living things appeared in the sky. The Violet Palace of True Origin is the most important place in your body, and it is also the place where the source energy gathers. Many experts like to place themselves here and use their source energy to temper it. This way, they can achieve the goal of connecting their minds with their own weapons and use it more easily. I understand, replied Chu Hen. I don't know if you're lucky or what, but in just a few days, you've obtained the immortal breeding spirit inkstone and the geocentric crystal, 2 supreme treasures used to refine divine weapons. The draining god spear and the T&I saber have absorbed most of the geocentric crystal's energy, and now they're being tempered by the immortal breeding spirit inkstone. If these 2 weapons are of a high enough level, there's a chance that they might evolve into divine weapons. What? Evolve into divine weapons? Chu Hen's heart immediately lit up, and he could not help but ask, "Are you serious?" "I'm just saying there's a chance. Why are you so excited?" The saintly winged heavenly flame sparrow scolded disdainfully. Chu Hen smiled and said, "I've never seen a divine weapon before, and I desperately want one." This was indeed the truth. To anyone in the world, divine weapons were treasures that they greatly desired. That's simple. As long as you hurry up and help me return to peak condition, I can satisfy whatever you want. Is that so? Chu Hen was slightly flabbergasted. Shortly after, he subconsciously asked, "Pardon me for asking, but who exactly are you? Why were you sealed in the 100 Nations province?" "That's none of your business. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." The sudden change in tone instantly caused the atmosphere to become a little stiff. Chu Hen was a little surprised. Wasn't this change in attitude a little too fast? Or perhaps he had unintentionally touched the other's bottom line? "Sorry." Chu Hen faintly smiled. When he saw that the immortal breeding spirit inkstone had stabilized, he withdrew his consciousness from the true essence Violet Palace. Then, Chu Hen walked out of the cave. Whoosh! Chu Hen stretched his arms and let out a long sigh of relief. He stood at the entrance of the cave, his palms blocking the sunlight that shone down. Golden rays of light shone through the gaps between his fingers, shining on Chu Hen's handsome face. His fair skin glowed with a faint red and transparent luster. After being stifled inside for so many days, now that he breathed in the fresh air of the outside world, he suddenly felt as if he had been enlightened. Fourth level of the Earth Profound Realm. Chu Hen put down his hands and lightly clenched his fists. There was a flash of light at the corner of his eyes. The enormous energy contained in the geocentric stone crystal was divided between the dripping god spear, the Tianai blade, and Chu Hen. And Chu Hen, who had the geographical advantage, took the big head part. That majestic spirit energy that was like a river opened up the space in the true essence Violet Palace by more than double. In just a few days, he had jumped 2 realms. If he encountered Xiangu and Bai Nian from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty again, he wouldn't have any other concerns. Screech! At this moment, a loud and clear eagle cry sounded in the mountain stream. A black dot appeared in the sky. Chu Hen raised his head and saw a white eagle with a wingspan of more than 100 zhong circling above his head. It seemed like the owner of the cave had returned. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth curled up slightly. "I'm really sorry for occupying your nest for so many days. I'll leave now. Goodbye." Swish! As soon as his voice fell, Chu Hen instantly turned into a stream of light and leaped into the sky, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. After leaving, Chu Hen headed east. Counting with his fingers, he had already been separated from the main group of Mount Kunliu for nearly 10 days. 10 days was not a long time, but it was not a short time either. Anything could happen. Even though Chu Hen believed in the strength of the 2 hall masters of Mount Kunliu, it was still a better choice to meet up with them. Swish! Chu Hen's movement speed was extremely fast. The vast mountains constantly swept past under his body. Goo-goo! Suddenly, a low cry of birds and beasts attracted Chu Hen's attention. He stopped and looked at the forest below him. Then, he moved and landed steadily on the branch of a towering tree. Following the direction of the sound, he saw a small and exquisite kingfisher perched on a tree branch in front of him. The kingfisher didn't look eye-catching, but it let out a rhythmic call. This was just a very ordinary scene. It would be abnormal if there weren't the cries of birds and beasts in the forest. However, Chu Hen's eyelids twitched, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. There was no other reason than that the kingfisher's call was the gathering signal from the internal members of Mount Kunliu. Before coming to the ancient desolate heaven domain, Shan Jun, Fu Qin, and the others had told Chu Hen about this. Chapter 777. Boom! Heavy forces collided fiercely in the forest like a mountain torrent, spreading out along with a mighty momentum. The mountains trembled, and flocks of birds and beasts were startled in the distance. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 5 or 6 figures in a sorry state quickly flew back and landed. Their eyes revealed a hint of solemnity and panic. "Oh no, there's an ambush. Ling Tao, you guys retreat quickly. I'll cover you." A steady and hurried voice sounded, but the person behind him strongly refused. "No, I'll cover you." "Su Lang, you guys retreat quickly." "Hee, none of you can leave." The next moment, a strange howl was heard. More than a dozen gloomy figures flashed out from the surrounding dark forest like ghosts and surrounded them like a pack of wolves. "Hee, just a few of you to explore the way? Aren't you courting death? The one who spoke was a thin man with a pair of sharp, iron claws on his wrists. He looked at the people from Mount Kunliu with great interest and said, Su Lang, Ling Tao, right? You two are quite famous in Mount Kunliu. Our blood refining hall has always been a place that cherishes talents. Why don't you come and work for us? We'll definitely not treat you badly. Hee hee. Dream on. Su Lang scolded with a gloomy face. Without saying anything, he stood up with his sword and stabbed towards the man. Ling Tao, you guys leave immediately, quickly. The situation was critical, and Su Lang had already decided to throw caution to the wind. Ling Tao and the others changed their expressions and gritted their teeth. Go. Humph, do you think you can leave? The thin man raised his hand and waved his iron claws, blocking Su Lang's sharp sword, and sneered disdainfully. Leave one alive. Kill the rest. He understood. The people from Blood Refining Hall sneered. They were as fierce as wolves, and their eyes were bloodthirsty. All of them pounced on the people from Mount Kunliu. Damn it! Su Lang frowned tightly, and his attack continued to speed up, intending to kill the leader in front of him first. However, the cultivation of the gloomy man was higher than that of Su Lang. No matter how the latter attacked, it was easily resolved. Hey, I'll ask you a few questions now. If you answer them well, I'll let you live today. What do you think? F***CK off. Su Lang swung his sword several times in a row, and the sharp sword beams interweaved together, forming a sharp pillar-shaped sword chi that exploded out. The astonishing sword force set off a hurried and ear-piercing sound. The gloomy man smiled contemptuously, then crossed his arms, and a pair of sharp iron claws erupted with a scorching hot cyclone ripple bang. He fiercely stamped his foot on the ground. Rumble! Surging hot flames soared into the sky, and a spherical shield of light immediately enveloped him. Flame shield! Hiss! Su Lang's sword pierced the arc-shaped shield, and ripples of light spread out in all directions. A thick layer of the soil on the ground was peeled off, and the surrounding trees and plants were crushed into powder. Even though Su Lang's sword was extremely powerful, it was unable to penetrate the opponent's defense. That's all you've got? That's really a pity. The man smiled sinisterly, and then 2 rays of cold light burst out from his eyes. Subsequently, the flame shield outside his body distorted violently. Bang! With an explosive sound, the shield exploded from the middle, and a vast and surging heat wave pounced toward Su Lang. The incomparably ferocious impact was like a mountain and river crashing down. Su Lang suddenly felt his arm shake, and he was thrown out with his sword. He smashed onto the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Su Lang, senior brother Su Lang, Ling Tao and the others turned pale with fright, and they seized the time to attack fiercely. However, in this kind of situation, the more chaotic it was, the more dangerous it was. Very soon, 2 people were chopped to the ground one after another. You bastards, I'll fight out with you. Ling Tao was extremely furious, and his eyes were bloodshot. However, a few experts from the blood refining hall surrounded him, making him look like a trapped beast. No matter how he tried to break out of the encirclement, it was difficult for him to break out. Su Lang, who fell onto the ground, covered his chest with one hand, and stared fiercely at the gloomy and thin man who was slowly walking over. The latter said contemptuously, Tell me, what's the current state of your Demon Slayer Palace Master Wen Liang? Are you going to die soon? Uffed! Su Lang spat out a mouthful of blood and sneered coldly. You guys are really indulging in fantasy. Our Palace Master Wen Liang is fine, but isn't your Sect Master Ho Lai going to die soon? Why aren't you guys running away? If you're slow, you'll be buried in the ancient desolate heaven realm forever. Ha ha! Seeing Su Lang's unyielding look, killing intent surged in the man's eyes, and his face turned ashen. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he shouted in a deep voice, I asked you guys to be stubborn. Later, I'll let you guys experience my methods. I'll make all of you wish you were dead. Wish you were dead. However, Just as he finished speaking, an unprecedented surging sword aura suddenly surged in their direction. Everyone was shocked and subconsciously looked over. They saw a torrent of sword aura surging from the forest behind them. The densely packed sword auras gathered together, like a sword river. Towering trees were crushed into pieces, and the grass and trees were all crushed into powder. What? Everyone's faces changed dramatically, and the pupils of the people of the blood refining hall shrank. Before they could react, the numerous sharp sword auras penetrated their bodies like pear flowers in a storm and penetrated their vital parts. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The blood rain danced, and the red liquid splashed wantonly. With shrill screams, the experts of the blood refining hall were pierced into sieves by the powerful sword rain one after another. The world was completely shrouded in a black storm of sword rain. The thin man in front of Su Lang turned pale with fright, and he blurted out in shock, "One sword flying immortal technique. Chi." Before he finished his words, a bunch of sword shadow passed through his throat like a flowing light. The latter's face suddenly became dull, and his eyes were wide open, as if they were about to split. Blood sprayed out like a fountain. Plop! He knelt on the ground with his eyes wide open and died with everlasting regret. In an instant, more than a dozen experts of the blood refining hall were killed. Su Lang and Ling Tao, who were shocked, were overjoyed at once. They blurted out without thinking, "It's junior brother Chu Hen." Buzz! An elegant and light gust of wind blew over, and a familiar figure surrounded by sword auras flashed over from far to near. It landed steadily in front of Su Lang and Ling Tao. "Junior brother Chu Hen, it's really you. It's great that you're okay." Su Lang and Ling Tao were overjoyed. They quickly got up from the ground and greeted him. Looking at the faces of the two that still had lingering fear, Chu Hen smiled slightly and nodded lightly. "Are you two all right?" Chu Hen regarded Su Lang and Ling Tao as real brothers and friends. During the journey to find the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order, they went through fire and water with Shan Jun, Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the others. They were very trustworthy people. The two of them shook their heads, and Su Lang asked, "Junior brother Chu Hen, where have you been these days? We're all very worried about your safety." During the chaotic battle in ancient Sky City, the Blood Refining Hall and Mount Kunliu fought until the sky was dark. The Blood Refining Hall summoned the powerful death demonic beast. Under the crisis, Chu Hen alone lured the death demonic beast away to create an opportunity for Mount Kunliu to retreat. After so many days had passed, no one knew how Chu Hen's situation was. Now that they saw him safe and sound, they were more or less relieved. "We'll talk about my matter later." Chu Hen raised his hand and asked, "How are the others? Where are Shan Jun and the others?" Chapter 778. The situation right now is very urgent. Su Lang clenched his fists and spoke with a heavy tone. Hearing this, Chu Hen's expression slightly changed as a cold glint appeared in his eyes. "What is going on?" "We lost." "Not to that extent." Ling Tao shook his head and denied it. "During the Battle of Ancient Sky City, we initially planned to retreat at full speed, but the blood refining gate didn't let us go. Not long after you lured the evil beasts of death away, an even more intense battle erupted between the two sides. The demon-slaying palace master and Ho-Lai of the blood-refining gate fought fiercely, creating an earth-shattering battle. In the end, both sides suffered heavy injuries. Both suffered heavy injuries? Chu Hen couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Ho-Lai and Liao Qixio were two of the highest authorities of the blood refinement gate. Their strengths were not weaker than the three hall masters of Mount Kunlu. Both Wen Liang and Ho-Lai suffered heavy injuries, so one could imagine how intense the situation was that day. What about the soaring immortal hall master? Chu Hen asked in a deep voice. The soaring immortal hall master, Qi Hanyu, was someone he respected, so he was quite concerned about her safety. Su Lang still shook his head. The soaring immortal hall master and Liao Qixio were fighting fiercely all the way. In the chaos, They accidentally lost contact with us after saying this. Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the others clearly had a hint of anxiety in their eyes. The importance of the soaring immortal Hall Master to the entire Mount Kunlu was self-evident. If something happened to her, then it would be an unimaginable loss. Lost contact? No news at all? Chu Hen frowned. Yes. However, the demon-slaying Hall Master has already sent senior brother Shanjun, Fuqin, Huaxue, and your friends to find the soaring immortal Hall Master. I believe there will be news soon. I know, Chu Hen replied in a low voice. Dan Jun had always been a steady person, so he felt rather at ease with him leading the group. Moreover, Mu Feng, Mouse, and the Thousand Cranes Sex Master, Qi Zhang, and the others possessed formidable cultivations. If they arrived in time and provided the master of the soaring immortal hall with a certain amount of support, then Liao Qixio wouldn't be a threat at all. What's the specific situation here? Hall Master Wen Liang is currently recuperating from his injuries. Senior brother Nangong Qian and senior sister Lung Lingyan will be issuing orders for now. Su Lang replied. Ling Tao also added, now our main force is guarding the fish stream 5 miles to the southwest, and the bastards of the blood refining hall have surrounded the main exit with the poisonous insects they raise. Once we want to break through, they will take action. Chu Hen nodded slightly and then shook his head. The people of the blood refining hall blocked the main exits of Mount Kunliu with poisonous insects. Obviously, they wanted to catch everyone in Mount Kunliu in one fell swoop. As for why they hadn't launched their attack yet, it was probably because they were waiting for an opportunity. This opportunity was Ho Lai. In other words, both Mount Kunlu and the blood refining hall were caught in the battle of time. Wan Liang and Ho Lai, whoever recovered first would be able to control the overall situation. However, according to the current situation, the blood refining hall obviously had the advantage. It was very simple. Mount Kunliu was in the light while the enemy was in the dark. Today, we were ordered to investigate the base of the enemy of the blood refining hall. We didn't expect that we would be ambushed as soon as we came out. If junior brother Chu Hen didn't come in time, we would all be. Su Lang lowered his head and said shamefully. Chu Hen smiled slightly. You don't need to say these polite words between brothers. Take me to the fish stream. Okay. After a while, under the guidance of Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the others, Chu Hen arrived at a precipitous mountain gorge. The surging waterfall, which was dozens of feet high, fell from the sky like the Milky Way. The turbulent water hit the pool below and splashed thousands of splashes. In the sky above the fish water stream, there was a dense swarm of poisonous insects and flying ants. There were tens of thousands of them, and their colors were bright and beautiful. Some were as big as an adult's fist, and some were as small as a mosquito. The dense swarm of poisonous creatures was like a tidal wave, standing on a mountain wall outside the fish stream. Chu Hen looked at the poisonous insects in the sky and couldn't help shaking his head secretly. It seems that the blood refining hall has put in a lot of effort this time. I'm afraid that such a large number of poisonous insects is all they have. Su Lang, who was behind him, couldn't help but smile bitterly. Junior brother Chu Hen, we can't go there directly. When we came out, we passed through a secret passage under the pool. This secret passage is connected to a lake outside. It was a vast mountain gorge with verdant hills, clear waters, and overgrown with flowers and grass. However, the people in Mount Kunliu were not in the mood to enjoy the beautiful scenery here. Everyone looked at the black poisonous insects that shrouded the area above the fish stream. This feeling was like a huge net covering their heads, giving them an indescribable sense of oppression. Damn it, I really want to fight with these bastards from the blood refining hall. Me too, but we don't even know where the enemy is hiding. I'm afraid that once we rush out, we will become targets. Then what should we do? Are we just going to waste time here? No. As long as the demon-slaying Hall Master recovers, we will kill them until they cry for their parents. At the entrance of a quiet mountain cave, 2 elder-level experts guarded the door, one on the left and one on the right. Their expressions were solemn, and their gazes were sharp, as if they were guarding the door. At this moment, a young man and a young woman walked towards them. They were none other than Nangong Ku and Lung Ling Yan, the two top genius disciples. How is the palace master? Nangong Ku took the lead to ask. The two elders looked at each other, and one of them said, I don't know. Tell us if you have anything to say. Don't disturb him. Nangong Ku frowned slightly and said with slight dissatisfaction, I am the direct disciple of the palace master. Even I can't go in? It's best not to disturb him. The elders said in a more old-fashioned manner. At this time, a series of noisy footsteps came from afar. The few of them turned around and looked. When they saw the person in the lead, everyone's expression changed. Chu Hen. Lung Ling Yan looked up and quickly walked forward. You're back. Seeing the person in front of him, Chu Hen smiled politely. Senior Sister Lung. Senior Sister Lung, junior brother Chu Hen came back with me. Half an hour ago, our team was ambushed by the enemy. Junior brother Chu Hen arrived just in time, so we survived. Su Lang said in a low voice. Chu Hen nodded in affirmation. I received the Kingfisher's transmission signal from a forest 100 miles away. That's how I found this place. Lung Ling Yan could not help but laugh. She replied in a slightly strange manner. You're really lucky. We've been worried about your safety. Chu Hen touched his nose. Senior Sister Lung, are you afraid that I won't be able to return your money after I die? You're right. I've always remembered the water, soul, essence you owe me. At that time at Mount Kunlu, Chu Hen had unintentionally snatched away Lung Ling Yan's water, soul, essence. After that, Lung Ling Yan had always felt that Chu Hen was a little displeasing to the eye. However, after the battle at the ancient city, when Chu Hen had disregarded his own safety and lured away the death evil beast spirit, Lung Ling Yan's attitude towards him had changed. Her tone was much gentler than before. On the other hand, Nangong Ku, who was not far away, had a slightly cold expression on his face. There was a complicated expression on his face. How's Lord Palace Master? After exchanging a few pleasantries, Chu Hen brought the topic back to the main topic. Lung Ling Yan glanced at the cave guarded by the two elders and said, I'm not sure yet. Before she finished speaking, a deep and dignified voice sounded from inside. Come in. Everyone's hearts jolted as their eyes lit up. At the same time, the two elders guarding the entrance of the cave also let down their guard and took a step back, opening up a path for them to pass through. Nangong Ku, Lung Ling Yan, Chu Hen, Su Lang, and Ling Tao entered one after another. Inside the cave, the first thing that entered everyone's eyes was a flat stone platform. An extremely dignified middle-aged man sat on the stone platform. It was the Devil Slayer Palace Master, Wen Liang. Under the dim light, Wen Liang's slightly pale face could be vaguely seen. However, his eyes were still sharp like the god of thunder, emitting a powerful and domineering aura. Palace Master. Everyone cupped their fists and saluted respectfully. When Liang's eyes first fell on Chu Hen, with his eyesight, it was not difficult for him to see the changes in Chu Hen's aura these days. How's the demonic beast of death? Palace Master. Chu Hen nodded slightly and replied solemnly. The demonic beast of death has been killed. What? As soon as he said that, Nangong Ku, Lung Ling Yan, and the others' expressions changed again. Their faces were full of disbelief. The demonic beast of death has been killed? How could Chu Hen do that with his strength? However, seeing that Chu Hen was calm and did not seem to be lying, everyone was even more surprised. Is that true? Nangong Ku clenched his fists and stared at Chu Hen. Chu Hen raised his eyelids and replied calmly, Have you seen it return to the blood refining hall these days? Wow. Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the others gasped. Their gazes were filled with admiration when they looked at Chu Hen again. Previously, they only thought that Chu Hen had escaped from the jaws of death, but they did not expect that he would counterattack so forcefully. Based on this, Chu Hen would definitely surpass Nangong Ku and Lung Ling Yan in the competition for the position of Sect Master in the future. The demon-slaying Temple Master, Wen Liang, heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Hen's action could be said to have eliminated a major threat to Mount Kunliu. The demon-slaying Temple Master, Wen Liang, heaved a sigh of relief. The The demon-slaying Temple Master's action could be said to have eliminated a major threat to Mount Kunliu. If it was allowed to grow, it was very likely to become a heavenly beast in the future. At that time, if the blood refining hall used its bloodline to reproduce, it would be a huge threat to the entire Mount Kunliu. You've done well this time. It was rare for Wen Liang to express his appreciation for Chu Hen, but apart from that, he did not express anything else. After all, Chu Hen's identity was special. It was not realistic to change Wen Liang's opinion of him with only one action. Then, Wen Liang turned his eyes to Nangong Ku and Lung Lingyan. What's the result of your investigation? Temple Master. Lung Lingyan opened her red lips and said in a serious tone, I caught a small leader of the blood refining hall in the forest in the south this morning. From him, I learned that Ho Lai's injury has recovered by more than 70%. What? More than 70%? Chapter 779. More than 70%. Hearing the news, their faces turned pale, and they all looked at Wen Liang, the master of Demon Slayer Temple. Wen Liang narrowed his eyes and looked calm. His whole body revealed a calm aura of someone who had been through many hardships. I think it's a trap. They want to disturb our minds. Nangong Ju sneered and said in a low voice, Ho Lai was hit by the master's heart-destroying palm. His internal organs were damaged. It's not bad for him to recover 50% in just a few days. Lung Lingyan pursed her red lips. She wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. Finally, she didn't say anything. Nangong Ju continued, Master, I found out the hiding place of one of the main groups of the blood refining hall. Oh. Their eyes lit up. Su Lang couldn't help but say, Where? 10 miles away in the northwest direction, there's a dam embankment. On the other side of the dam, there's a hidden jungle. Roughly, there are at least more than 200 masters of the blood refining hall lurking there. More than 200 for the entire blood refining hall. This number was actually not much. However, those who were selected to come to the ancient Baron's heaven realm were the elites of the elite disciples. Few of them were weak. In other words, these 200 masters occupied about 1/5 or 1/6 of all the people from the blood refining hall that came here. Moreover, after the previous few fierce battles, Feng Luo's strength had increased tremendously. Both the blood refining hall and Mount Kunliu had lost a lot of disciples. Therefore, these 200 masters were the main backbone of the force. After a short silence, Wen Liang said lightly, Tell me your opinions. Nangong Ju, Lung Lingyan, and Chu Hen looked at each other. Lung Lingyan still took the lead to express her opinion. Master, I think it's better to continue to guard Fish Stream. This place is easy to defend and difficult to attack. It's more advantageous for us. However, before Lung Lingyan could finish speaking, Chu Hen, who was at the side, shook his head. Lung Lingyan was slightly stunned. She looked up at him and said, You don't agree? Now Chu Hen had the absolute right to speak. It was impossible for others to ignore him. Chu Hen narrowed his eyes slightly and hesitated for a while. Then he said, If we take advantage of the situation to destroy the 200 masters of the blood refining hall in the northwest, the blood refining hall will retreat without fighting. His way of thinking was simple, crude, straightforward, and efficient. I agree with junior brother Chu Hen's idea. At this moment, Nangong Ju suddenly spoke. The few of them cast surprised glances at each other. It was no secret in Mount Kunliu that Nangong Ku and Chu Hen were not on good terms. It was rather surprising that the other party would agree with Chu Hen's suggestion. Just as junior sister Lingyan said, Ho Lai has recovered more than 70% of his injuries. Although it's unlikely, nothing is absolute. Therefore, we can't continue wasting time here. We must take the initiative. Nangong Ju ignored everyone's gaze and said, If we can wipe out the 200 hidden enemy masters in one fell swoop, it will definitely be a huge blow to the blood refining hall. At that time, even if Ho Lai's injury recovers 70% to 80%, we don't need to be afraid. That's reasonable. Su Lang immediately expressed his agreement. He then said, Now our biggest advantage is that the people of the blood refining hall don't know that junior brother Chu Hen is back. If junior brother Chu Hen, senior brother Nangong, and senior sister Lung jointly attack, we will definitely be able to defeat them in the shortest time. The disciples of Mount Kunliu were a little aggrieved because they only defended and did not attack these days. At this moment, they all wanted to rush out and fight with the enemy to their heart's content. And the master of the demon-slaying temple was also a person who acted swiftly and decisively. Since he had found the winning point, how could he let it go? Nangongju, Lung Lingyan, Chu Hen, listen to my order. Yes, I now order you to lead 300 disciples to attack the enemy's hidden team in the Northwest Dam area. You must complete the task in the shortest time. When Liang's eyes turned cold, emitting the power of thunder. Yes, the three of them answered in unison, and their momentum was like a rainbow. Without further ado, the three of them immediately retreated and began to plan and discuss the attack plan. Because this action was a very rigorous and top-secret attack, Chu Hen and the other two unanimously decided that they could not directly attack from the main exit of the Fishwater Ravine. If they wanted to kill the hidden team of the Blood Refining Hall in the shortest and most effective way, there was only one way, which was to approach the enemy secretly and launch an attack. And if they wanted to leave the Fishwater Ravine quietly, they first had to hide from the surveillance of those people who were waiting outside. That night, the night was dark and windy, and the cold wind in the mountain ravine emitted a bone-chilling coldness. Boom! Suddenly, a heavy and violent rumble broke the silence of the Fish River stream. What followed was a series of furious attacks. All kinds of powerful martial skills that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas attacked the swarm of venomous insects in the sky. Bang! Bang! Colorful lights crisscrossed, dazzling, like a divine rainbow piercing through the sky, crushing poisonous insects and fire ants into pieces. Swift and fierce figures flashed out and started to kill these poisonous insects wantonly. However, just after a while, many powerful black shadows flew over from the sky of the peripheral area of the Fishwater Ravine. Hey, finally can't bear it. Do it. Don't let any of them escape. A chaotic battle broke out. Before the masters of Mount Kunliu finished breaking out of the encirclement, the people of the Blood Refining Hall quickly intercepted and killed them. All of a sudden, the airwaves flew and the fierce shock waves splashed. The entire sky above the Fishwater Ravine was in chaos, and the poisonous insects were wantonly flying. However, this chaotic battle did not last too long. In less than half a cup of tea's time, everyone from Mount Kunliu had retreated. Without any delay, they returned to the bottom of Fishwater Stream. This made people of the Blood Refining Hall a little confused. How could they admit defeat when they just started? Humph, a group of cowards. It seems that they just want to make some trouble. A disciple of the Blood Refining Hall sneered. Don't be too careless. The people of Mount Kunliu are full of tricks. Don't fall into their trap. Another person warned. Don't worry. Every important entrance of the whole area is guarded. I promise they can't escape even if they have wings. At this moment, taking advantage of the 10 minutes created, the 300 masters of Mount Kunliu had already passed through the secret path under the pool and reached a lake outside the Fishwater Ravine. In the dark night, everyone's breath was cold and fierce. They crossed the mountains like ghosts and headed northwest at the fastest speed. Junior Sister Lingyan, you lead the Brothers of the Void Hall forward and kill all the sentries. Nangon Hao gave an order. I understand. Without any hesitation, Lung Lingyan, who was as elegant as a spiritual butterfly, quickly disappeared in the dark and dense forest with dozens of people. Despite such a big movement, Lung Lingyan and her people didn't emit any breath fluctuation. In terms of assassination and night attack, no one could do it better than Lung Lingyan. The heavenly void seal method that she practiced could hide her breath to the extreme. Sometimes, even if she stood behind someone, they couldn't feel it. This was something that Chu Hen had personally experienced. Whoosh! Whoosh! Chu Hen and Nangon Hao walked side by side. Behind them were the experts of Mount Kunliu. This operation was of great importance. Almost everyone had come with the determination to complete the mission. There was no room for mistakes. Nangon Hao and Chu Hen had almost no interaction along the way. They didn't even exchange glances. The two of them were like strangers. They didn't seem like companions at all. However, Chu Hen had to admit that Nangong Hao's ability to guide was very strong. The other party was calm and collected, so there was no need for him to give any instructions. Under normal circumstances, a 5-kilometer journey would only take a few blinks of an eye. However, the group traveled for nearly half an hour on foot. They didn't dare to release any energy fluctuations. Soon, Chu Hen, Nangong Ju, and the others led by them met up with Lung Lingyan. Under the shroud of the night, a dam that spanned thousands of meters of water loomed in front of everyone's eyes. The dam was very majestic. From afar, it looked more like a large stone bridge. On both sides of the stone bridge was a body of water. As the cold wind blew, the water rippled. On the stone bridge, every 50 meters or so, there was a disciple of the blood refining hall guarding. The defense was very tight. After this dam, we will reach the place where those people are hiding, Nangong Hao said in a low voice. In the darkness, his cold eyes were like a fierce wolf. When do we make our move? Lung Lingyan asked in a low voice. Nangong Hao looked up at the sky and swallowed. In an hour. An hour later, it was dawn. Every time this happened, it was the time when people were the most relaxed. Because when darkness and light alternated, the tension of the whole night would involuntarily be relieved. Chapter 780. The cold wind before the dawn was extremely bleak. Under the dim light, the dam bridge across the water with a width of more than 1 kilometer was like a road leading to another world. The water on both sides of the magnificent bridge was undulating. The waves were sometimes calm and sometimes surging. As dawn approached, the sentries of the blood refining hall, who had been guarding on the dam for a whole night, gradually relaxed. At the same time, traces of tiredness appeared on their faces in the dark jungle about 500 or 600 meters away from the dam bridge. 300 expert disciples of Mount Kunliu were quietly lurking in the dark. However, when the first ray of dawn broke through the thick clouds in the sky, the tipsy light began to dispel the dark atmosphere. The moment the light arrived, a vast and mighty aura that was comparable to a torrent suddenly erupted. Do it! The cold words came out of Nangong Bai's mouth. The eyes of Chu Hen and Lung Lingyan suddenly turned cold. Without any hesitation, the three of them shot out like a phantom streamer and rushed to the dam bridge in front of them at the fastest speed. The experts and disciples of Mount Kunliu followed closely behind. The 300 elites all burst out with a powerful stance. Kill, kids of the blood refining hall. Give me your life. What? The sudden change made the people of the blood refining hall on the dam turn pale with fright. Oh no, someone is stealing, bang. Before the person standing at the very front could finish speaking, a fierce fist force solidly smashed into his chest. In an instant, a mist of blood sprayed and pieces of flesh flew. That person's body was directly blown into pieces. Nangong Bai, the faces of the people of the blood refining hall at the back were pale and frightened. Yes, Nangong Bai raised his right hand and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. A surging dark red flame rose up. He shouted loudly, "Kill everyone at full speed." Yes, the morale of the Mount Kunliu disciples was like a rainbow. Their piercingly cold aura was like a sharp sword as they attacked. Nangong Hao, Lung Lingyan, and Chu Hen took the lead and pushed forward at the fastest speed. They had to eradicate the 200 superiors lurking here before the reinforcements of the blood refining hall arrived. So they had to move fast, stop them. Don't let them cross the bridge. Kill. Immediately after, on the other side of the dam bridge, several sharp and cold figures also quickly flew out. The experts from both sides instantly converged and attacked each other like 2 swarms of bees. Boom! Bang! A fierce scuffle broke out in an instant. Once they collided, the people of Mount Kunliu were like a hot knife through butter. They went straight into the enemy's group like a cold spear. Because it was an unprepared attack and the suppression of the number of people, the arrogance of the blood refining hall was quickly suppressed. Hiss! Chi! The sharp weapons cut through the flesh and made an extremely harsh and rapid sound. The saber light and the sword shadow were like graceful birds. The people of Mount Kunliu quickly harvested the lives of the superiors of the blood refining hall in the most powerful manner. Nangong Hao was as angry as a dragon. He struck with his palm, and the violent palm's strength was like a rainbow of the Great Way. More than a dozen superiors of the blood refining hall were shattered into blood mist on the spot. Lung Lingyan's body was light, like a spiritual butterfly flying in the sky. She turned into a beam of flowing light and flying shadow and quickly shuttled among the enemies. Wherever she went, the enemies were either killed or wounded. As for Chu Hen, there was no need to mention that he cut off the enemy's head with a flying immortal skill like cutting grass. The crisscrossing sword shadow lingered and danced around him. The gorgeous killing intent was full of magnificence. In just a few blinks of an eye, the troops of the blood refining hall were defeated and retreated step by step. Everyone from Mount Kunliu rapidly advanced towards a bridge, and soon they crossed the middle section of the bridge. Victory was in sight. The people of Mount Kunliu became more and more excited, and their eyes were full of sharpness. However, at this moment, the water on both sides of the dam bridge surged into the sky. The mighty wind swept over, and the center of the water was split open. A gully with a width of more than 100 feet was sunk. "Hey, Nangong Hao, you really dare to come?" A cold and sinister laugh was heard. Then, a cold and ferocious silhouette rushed towards Nangong with a mountain-like aura. Nangong Hao's eyes turned cold. He moved his mind, and an extremely angry, true core strength surged in his palm. Bang! The next moment, their palms met, and the space was distorted. The aftermath of the frenzied, true core strength surged wantonly, and the fierce recoil force made both sides fly back dozens of meters. Immediately after, a blurry black shadow stepped on the surface of the water to the side of Lung Lingyan's position. Boom! The waves piled up, and water splashed everywhere. The opponent was extremely fast, and in an instant, he was in front of Lung Lingyan. Then, the black shadow leaped, and the moment he pounced toward Lung Lingyan, he split into two, turning into two blurry shadows. The two shadows, one on the left and one on the right, slashed at the opponent like a sharp blade. When faced with this sudden attack, Lung Lingyan's pretty face turned slightly cold, but she didn't show the slightest trace of panic. Her hands stretched out like the swaying of a willow, causing the air to fluctuate with a slight rhythm. After that, a rumbling sound rang out as water splashed in all directions, and two majestic water pillars actually shot out from the water in front of Lung Lingyan. The two water pillars were comparable to the flood dragons that came out of the sea, intercepting the two blurry shadows with lightning speed. Bang! Boom! Intense forces collided and intersected. Two surging aftershocks splashed in midair, and water splashed all over the sky like arrows. As Lung Lingyan retreated to defend herself, the two afterimages also merged together, and then a pale woman's face was faintly discernible. Gao Lang, Lu Fu, Nangong Ju, and Lung Lingyan looked at the person in front of them and shouted coldly at the same time. On the other side, Chu Hen frowned slightly, and a cold light flashed in the corner of his eyes. He had seen the two people in front of him before. In the chaotic battle in the ancient city, the two of them had fought with Nangong Ju and Lung Lingyan. The strength of their cultivation was something that Chu Hen had witnessed with his own eyes. The two of them were the top genius disciples of the Blood Refining Hall. Whether it was fame or strength, they were not weaker than Nangong Ju or Lung Lingyan. Humph, you guys came fast enough. Nangong Ju clenched his fists, and strands of red light patterns overflowed from his body. A strong, violent, and dignified aura began to surge. Lung Lingyan frowned slightly. Since the reinforcements came so fast, they might have to retreat in advance. Hee hee. Gao Lang grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. It's not that we came fast, but that we've been waiting here for a long time. Waiting for a long time? What did that mean? Lung Lingyan, Chu Hen, and the others could not help but change their expressions. In the next instant, Chu Hin, who was on the stone bridge on the dam, raised his eyelids and hurriedly shouted, "Retreat quickly! Retreat!" Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the other disciples of Mount Kunlu were similarly shocked. Without the slightest hesitation, they soared into the sky one after another and retreated. In the next second, countless dazzling and complicated runes appeared on the bridge and the water on both sides of the dam. Thousands of dazzling light patterns soared into the sky. An extremely violent energy wave were like magma brewing in the belly of a volcano. Boom! What followed was a terrifying shock wave that was comparable to the undercurrents of the deep sea. The violent power suddenly surged and exploded in the water. The entire dam, which was more than 1,000 meters long, was directly broken in the middle. It collapsed inch by inch, layer by layer, and rapidly extended to both sides. Chapter 781. Boom! A terrifying force that resembled the undercurrents of the deep sea suddenly exploded in the water below. The entire bridge of the dam broke apart in an extremely shocking and majestic manner. The vast and mighty flood surged and poured out, bringing along an incomparably violent shock wave that rushed towards the people of Mount Kunliu. Bang, bang, bang. The disciples of Mount Kunliu, who were caught off guard, were all hit by the huge force. Many of their internal organs trembled and they vomited blood. A group of people died on the spot and fell into the water below like birds with broken wings. Nan Gongku, Lung Lingyan, and Chu Hen were all greatly surprised. The three of them quickly gathered together and set up a defense. Looking at the pale faces of their companions behind them, Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the rest turned ashen. How could this be? That was the destructive shock caused by the explosion of the talisman array just now. The people of Blood Refining Hall were actually prepared for it. Gao Lang looked at Nan Gongku and the rest with a mocking smile and said disdainfully, "Did you really think that you could come here without anyone knowing? Too naive, too funny. From the moment you walked out of Fish Stream, you fell into our control." Ha ha! Exuding a thick, complacent laughter, it made people feel disgusted. The woman named Lu Fu also stared at Lung Lingyan playfully. "It seems that the final result of the battle between the two of us is that I won. Isn't it too early to be happy?" Lung Lingyan replied with a sneer. "Do you think that you can stop us with just these few people? I'm sorry to tell you that all the people stationed nearby are on their way here." And Gao Lang crossed his arms in front of him and wore a playful smile on his face. He glanced sideways at the people of Mount Kunliu with a smug expression. "And what?" a disciple of Mount Kunliu asked hatefully. Boom! Before he could finish his sentence, Nan Gongku, who was standing behind Lung Lingyan, suddenly exploded with an extremely strong and violent aura. His eyes suddenly turned scarlet as he raised both of his palms and heavily hit Lung Lingyan's back with the force of a thunderbolt. And I was never a member of Mount Kunli. Heart Destruction Palm. Bang! Along with the cold and indifferent voice, a muffled sound ruthlessly smashed into the hearts of everyone on Mount Kunliu like a heavy hammer. In an instant, everyone's eyes widened and their faces turned as white as paper. Lung Lingyan, who was caught off guard, trembled as a mouthful of blood gushed out from her mouth. Her exquisite and beautiful face was also dumbfounded, and her eyes were filled with dense disbelief. Heart Destruction Palm, breaking mountains and rivers with the might of thunder. This palm strike went straight to the organs and attacked the heart meridian. Lung Lingyan was like a butterfly in the wind as she allowed the ferocious force of the palm to strike her flying, and fresh blood dyed her pure white dress red. Anger, shock, surprise, and most of all, disbelief. All the people in Mount Kunliu had red eyes. They never dreamed that senior brother Nangong, whom they admired the most, was the undercover of the Blood Refining Hall. No wonder Mount Kunliu was ambushed by the Blood Refining Hall in the ancient city. Today, the Blood Refining Hall also predicted that they would make a sneak attack. In that short instant, all sorts of negative emotions surged in the hearts of everyone on Mount Kunliu. After the shock, it was replaced by the endless anger. "Quick, save senior sister Ling Yan. A disciple of the Void Hall shouted anxiously with red eyes. However, at the same time, when Lung Ling Yan was about to fall, more than a dozen experts of the blood refining hall had already flown out one step ahead of her. The cold and strong killing intent rushed towards Lung Ling Yan, and their faces were full of grim smiles. "Goodbye, Miss Lung Ha." The cold saber light and sword shadow stung everyone's pupils. Everyone on Mount Kunliu was so angry that their eyes almost popped out. They were shocked and angry at the same time. Lung Ling Yan sighed helplessly. She never thought that death was so close to her. Buzz! But at this moment, an extremely cold current suddenly came out of nowhere. At the critical moment, a strange purple flame rose to the sky like a torrent and rushed to the people of the blood refining hall with the momentum of toppling the mountains and overturning the seas. As soon as the purple flame touched her body, it immediately flew and wrapped her whole body. Shrill screams were heard one after another. More than a dozen experts of the blood refining hall who were about to besiege Lung Ling Yan all turned into ashes. What? Everyone's face changed again and again. Then, a young figure quickly flashed to Lung Ling Yan's side and held her in his arms. Lung Ling Yan leaned on his chest weakly. She raised her eyes slightly and looked at the young face in front of her. Her eyes could not help but ripple slightly. "No, don't care about me. Leave me, go." After saying that, Lung Ling Yan closed her beautiful eyes and lost consciousness. "It's you again, the bad guy." Seeing that Chu Hen saved Lung Ling Yan, Nan Gonghao's eyes were suddenly full of killing intent. Without saying anything, he raised his palm and hit Chu Hen. "Go to hell." "Humph." Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He held Lung Ling Yan with both arms, and then lifted his leg to meet the palm strength of his opponent. Bang! A fierce air wave swept out. The red light mixed with the dense black light wantonly intersected. Nan Gonghao's powerful palm strength not only failed to gain any advantage, but was also pushed back several meters by Chu Hen. Gao Lang and Lu Fu, who were watching the show, were slightly surprised. They did not expect that apart from Lung Ling Yan, there was actually someone else in Mount Kunliu who could face Nan Gonghao's attack head-on. After pushing Nan Gonghao away with a kick, Chu Hen drew an arc in the air and immediately returned to Mount Kunliu's group. "Junior brother Chu Hen, how's senior sister Ling Yan?" Chu Hen quickly passed Lung Ling Yan to a medical disciple and said in a deep voice, "Retreat immediately. Su Lang, Ling Tao, help me cover our retreat." "Yes, understood." "Humph, none of you can leave today." Nan Gonghao flung his sleeve fiercely. His entire face was filled with vicious killing intent. This is what I Nan Gonghao have been waiting for." Looking at Nan Gonghao, who was like a completely different person, many Mount Kunliu's disciples still could not believe what was happening before their eyes. "Nan Gonghao, do you still have a conscience? The Devil Slayer Palace Master accepted you as his direct disciple. How can you face him by doing this? We're really blind to worship someone like you. You'll die a horrible death. We've been supporting you to become the next sect master. You're a disgrace to the name of Mount Kunliu." A few Devil Slayer Palace disciples scolded angrily. "Humph," Nan Gonghao sneered. "When we take down Mount Kunliu, the position of sect master will still be mine. Today I, Nan Gonghao, will leave my words here. If anyone is willing to follow me, I'll spare their lives. Otherwise, this muddy water will be your burial ground." The former senior and junior brothers had turned against each other. Gao Lang, Lu Fu, and the others from the Blood Refinement Hall sneered as they watched from the side. Just like what Nan Gonghao had said earlier, he was never a member of Mount Kunliu. "Bastard, I'll fight it out with you. Avenge our senior and junior brothers." Immediately, a few hot-tempered disciples charged at Nan Gonghao without saying a word. "Fools!" Nan Gonghao's face was filled with disdain. He spread open his arms, and a powerful true yuan gathered between his palms. Then he raised his hands, swoosh. Then several crimson shadow blades slashed towards the people in front of them, as if they had traveled back thousands of years. Hiss, 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 blood splattered and limbs flew everywhere. In an instant, a few Devil Slayer Palace disciples were torn into pieces by Nan Gong Hao. Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the rest were furious. They clenched their fists so tightly that their veins bulged. Seeing the scene in front of him, Chu Hen's pupils could not help but faintly shrink. His ice-cold eyes quietly became deep and indifferent. "You're really merciless." Chu Hen slowly spat out a slightly light voice. Nan Gong Hao sneered. "Overestimating yourself." Next, Chu Hen laughed as well. It was a laugh that was even more disdainful than Nan Gong Hao's. A chilly gust of wind blew past, and the water beneath them surged and roared. Chu Hen stood proudly in the air, slowly raised his right index and middle finger, and stared straight at Nan Gong Hao. Chapter 782. Today, I'll take Nan Gong Hao's worthless life. A majestic aura surged out from Chu Hen's body, and a bone-piercing chill spread out in all directions. The raging waves crashed against each other in the middle of the broken bridge, causing water to splash everywhere. Everyone on Mount Kunliu stared in astonishment at the slender but not tall and broad figure in front of them. This was a formless, murderous intent that caused their hearts to palpitate. "Ha!" Nan Gong Hao laughed instead of getting angry. He spread his arms slightly, and his laughter came to an abrupt halt. His eyes shot out two icy rays of light. "Very good, very good. The only thing I admire about you is your stupidity that doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, Nan Gong Hao's murderous intent surged. A flame-like crimson light burst out from his body, and an overwhelming pressure surged towards Chu Hen. Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the others' expressions changed when they saw this. They hurriedly exclaimed, "Junior brother Chu Hen, don't be rash. Nan Gong Hao is not someone you can handle." The crowd from Mount Kunliu thought that Chu Hen had said those words in a fit of anger. They knew very well just how powerful Nan Gong Hao was. However, before they could stop him, Chu Hen had already turned into a blur and disappeared from his original spot. A powerful black light immediately spread out and wrapped around the 9 underworld flames. Bang! In the next instant, the two figures, one red and one black, collided with each other like two meteors. Their cold and hard fists collided head-on, causing the space around them to tremble and the powerful shockwaves to spread out behind them. "Oomph, you're not weak." Nan Gong Hao's gaze was dark and cold. Following that, an even denser scarlet light surged out and pounced towards Chu Hen through his arm. However, Chu Hen merely smiled in disdain. Similarly, surging black light filled the air and spread out. Following that, a ferocious hidden force erupted with the astonishing strength of a mountain. What? Nan Gong Hao's expression changed. Bang! A muffled sound rang out, and he felt his arm go numb. The scarlet true core power that covered his forearm was immediately shattered. Immediately afterward, Chu Hen leaped forward and raised his right arm at the same time. He gathered his strength, and the vigorous black cyclone concentrated on his fist. Not good. A hint of panic flashed across Nan Gong Hao's eyes, and he hurriedly dodged to the side. However, Chu Hen's speed was clearly even faster. An astonishing fist force erupted in an instant. His fist, surrounded by a powerful cyclone, landed solidly on Nan Gong Bai's chest with the force of a thunderbolt. Bang! Waves of chi stacked up as true essence converged. Along with a black ring of light, Nan Gong Ju was sent flying like a cannonball, falling from the sky and crashing into the water below. Thousands of splashes surged, and a large area of the water caved in, as if a meteorite had fallen. In just a single exchange, Nan Gong Qian was blasted into the water by Chu Hen. This sudden scene caused everyone present to be extremely surprised. The experts from Mount Kunliu and the Blood Refinement Hall were all astonished. How could Chu Hen be so powerful? Gao Lang and Lu Fu looked at each other. The former's eyes turned cold, and he nodded slightly. "Yeah, you're really good at hiding your strength. Let me have a taste of your skills." However, before Gao Lang could make a move, the water below once again surged into the sky. "Get lost, all of you. His life is mine. Don't interfere." His murderous aura hurt everyone's eardrums. Under the surging waves of water, Nangonghao's eyes were bloodshot like an enraged beast. Anger. Absolute anger. Since that time on Mount Kunliu, Nangonghao had been extremely displeased with Chu Hen's appearance. Today, if he did not kill him with his own hands, he would not be able to vent his anger. Seeing this, Gao Lang frowned and hesitated for a moment. In the end, he decided to stay where he was. Anyway, this motley crew has been completely surrounded. There's no need to panic. The piercingly cold, murderous aura caused the airflow between heaven and earth to freeze. Chu Hen looked down at Nangonghao, who was hovering above the water, and sneered frivolously. In my opinion, it's better if you don't reject other people's help. You don't even have the right to make me use my full strength. Ridicule. The most disdainful ridicule. If it was someone else who said this, Nangonghao would not be so angry. However, the person who said this was Chu Hen, and it completely ignited his anger. Shut up, you'll die a horrible death if you talk too much. Today, I'll let you witness the true power of the grand demon slayer art. Boom! Nangonghao heavily stomped his foot. His boundless aura caused a huge depression to appear on the surface of the water. Terrifying waves rose from all four directions and shot straight into the sky, surging towards Chu Hen like a torrent. In the process of moving, the surging huge waves quickly turned into a scarlet-red color. Accompanied by sharp, ghostly wails and wolf howls, a skeleton monster wielding a long blade charged out from within and slashed at Chu Hen with its blade. Migre's shuttle. The dazzling power of the 7 stars gathered in his palms. With a flip of his hand, Chu Hen pushed forward, and a long and sharp crescent shuttle shot out horizontally. It tore through the air and collided head-on with the ferocious monster. Bang! The extremely destructive crescent shuttle directly slashed the monster into pieces and exploded into tens of thousands of scarlet water droplets. Just when everyone was shocked by Chu Hen's quick reaction speed, a huge scarlet-red fist once again forcefully pierced out from the torrent of water that overflowed the skies. The huge fist collided with the crescent shuttle, and the latter was immediately shattered. Boom! In the next instant, the shocking waves that had surged into the sky exploded like a star. What followed was a fierce and furious aura that was like a mountain that covered the heavens and the earth. The eyes of everyone present trembled. They could only see a dark red figure that was hundreds of meters tall appear in the midst of the dispersing water screen. This figure was like a demonic god that had walked out of an illusion. Its limbs were sharp, and its body was thin and slender. It wore a triangular helmet on its head. What a powerful aura! Everyone was secretly startled. Looking from afar, Chu Hen, who was standing in front of the opponent, seemed to be insignificant. So, this is one of the 3 great techniques of Mount Kunliu, the Great Demon Slayer technique. Its aura is truly extraordinary. Gao Lang rubbed his chin and smiled faintly with a hint of playfulness. Buzz! Every time the gigantic figure trembled, it emitted a heaven-shattering might. It lowered its head to look at Chu Hen below and shouted with an incomparably heavy voice, "Use your one-sword flying immortal technique. Today, I'll let you see who's stronger." The overwhelming, ferocious aura caused everyone's heart to tremble. The huge figure actually raised its arm and spread its fingers. Space twisted in a spiral, and tens of thousands of scarlet rays flickered. A 3-pronged ancient halberd appeared in its hand. The 3-pronged ancient halberd was like a heavenly pillar in its hand, and its aura shook the heavens. It was like a demonic god, and even the sky turned dim. At this moment, everyone present felt as if they were standing under a mountain range that could uproot the 5 mountains. The people of Mount Kunliu looked at Chu Hen with some worry in their eyes. One sword flying immortal technique? Chu Hen's eyelids lifted slightly, and a dense black light surged in his eyes. Buzz! The air trembled, and a strange spear appeared in his hand. The spear's appearance was particularly gorgeous. It had a sharp, diamond-shaped spearhead and a dragon spine connected to the spearhead and the body of the spear. It emitted a cold, dark light. I've said it before, you don't even have the qualifications to make me use my full strength. Then he raised the draining spirit spear and pointed the spearhead at the demon slayer figure.